Hey guys, tonight we step into the silken nightmare of Imperial China, where the walls are high, the etiquette is strict, and your worth is measured by how still you can sit while looking decorative. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You've been chosen. It's a word they use like a blessing, as if you're about to receive an honor that will elevate your family's status forever. But let's be honest, you're barely old enough to braid your own hair, and the truth is far colder. This choice means you're about to be traded like a rare artifact, a gift wrapped in silk but bound by invisible chains. Your father might have bribed his way to this, or maybe your village offered you as tribute to the emperor's vast collection of women. Either way, the path ahead isn't lined with roses. It's lined with strict rules, endless waiting, and a kind of quiet brutality that never makes the history books. Imagine the long journey to the capital silent, supervise the air thick with nervous energy and unspoken warnings. You're not allowed to speak unless spoken to, your eyes fixed on the ground, so you don't offend anyone with a careless glance. When the gates of the Forbidden City close behind you, it's not just a door shutting, it's a wall falling, a point of no return. The palace is a world apart, a maze of echoing corridors and painted walls that seem beautiful until you realize they're designed to trap you. Inside, your name is logged in ink on a scroll. You'll never see your background verified like a ledger entry, and your clothes replaced to erase any hint of your old life. If you're lucky, you're given a mirror, but more likely you're left with only a warped brass plate that distorts your reflection enough to make you doubt your own face. Because here, your appearance isn't yours anymore. It's a performance, a carefully crafted symbol of imperial order. You become part of the inner court, a place both grand and suffocating. Courtyards filled with carved jade and cherry blossoms that bloom only briefly before withering. The air is thick with sandalwood incense and fear. You're one of hundreds of women, all technically sisters, but trust and friendship are luxuries you can't afford. Every smile is a calculation, every gesture weighed. There's no escape, only a rigid hierarchy where you're at the very bottom. Your title is simple concubine in training. The phrase sounds almost gentle, but the reality is harsh. Your days revolve around learning how to offend no one. Not the senior concubines, not the eunuchs, not the powerful women whose favor or disdain can change your fate overnight. You bow just right, not too low, not too stiff. You speak softly only when spoken to, and you walk with tiny measured steps designed to suggest refinement, but never urgency. Opinions. Those are dangerous. Cleverness. Even more so. Obedience is your only currency here, and you spend your days perfecting the art of disappearing. Sleep is a precious commodity, but even at night the silence is absolute. You share a room with dozens of other girls. The beds are hard, the blankets thin, and whispers are taboo. There are ears everywhere, and the walls themselves seem to watch. The palace eunuchs patrol the halls, silently enforcing rules with a loyalty to the emperor that brooks no challenge. They're not just guards. They're the shadows that remind you how fragile your position is. Every morning starts before sunrise, not because you have work to do, but because discipline is performance. You are bathed, dressed, and arranged like a delicate flower in a human bouquet. Your hair is combed into the accepted style. Your hands inspected for any roughness. A single callus could mean a reprimand, Because a concubine's worth is her softness, not her productivity. Meals are eaten in eerie silence. The food is better than what most of the empire gets, but you chew mechanically, tasting nothing anymore. You do not speak, you do not look up. Even sighs are a risk too loud, and you might find yourself demoted or punished. You're told serving the emperor is a sacred duty, the highest calling a woman can hope for. But you know better. This isn't about honor. It's about being still and silent, existing to please a man who may never notice you. Beyond the color of your robes or the curve of your smile, senior concubines glide past like lacquered ghosts flawlessly made up, unreadable, dangerous. If you're lucky, they ignore you. If not, a wrong glance or a whispered word could land you in the laundry quarters for a month of punishment. Sometimes you wonder if anyone ever leaves. The gates you walk through remain, but no one you know has walked back out. Some concubines become nuns. Some simply vanish without explanation. You try not to think about it too much. You are here now, and that is all that matters. At night, you lie awake staring at a polished wood ceiling, imagining freedom, the feeling of wind on your face, laughter spilling from an open throat, being wanted rather than selected. But those moments belong to another life. Now you're no longer a person in the way the outside world understands it. You are part of the harem, a whisper in the emperor's shadow, a name on a list you'll never see. You belong to the palace, its rituals, its silence, and above all, its rules. Sleep well, you'll need the energy. The rest of your life is just beginning. You wake the next morning to the weight of inspection pressing down before you've even opened your eyes. Forget warm welcomes or gentle greetings. Your entry into the palace life began with a cold, clinical assessment. Standing straight, eyes lowered still, as a statue, you are ushered into a grand chamber where dozens of eyes stare without a hint of emotion. Senior consorts, mid-ranking wives, and eunuchs form a crescent of embroidered authority, their faces unreadable, their judgments final. You aren't introduced. Your name is a whisper on a scroll beside your feet, listing your province, your age, and a blunt assessment of your family's usefulness. The polished floors echo your nervous footsteps, sounding embarrassingly loud in a room where silence rules. You try to glide like a falling petal, but it feels more like stumbling goat in slippers. Guilt bubbles up fast. Guilt for every breath you take. Anxiety twisting your stomach and nausea from knowing your entire future depends on this moment. The lead eunuch steps forward. Gesturing rather than touching touch would be improper after all. You turn bow, lift your sleeves, open your mouth for a tooth inspection that feels less like hygiene and more like a livestock appraisal. Behind the masks of powdered faces, whispers swirl. Will you age well? Bear healthy children, are your hips wide enough? Is your voice soothing or shrill? Does your silence speak of serenity or simple dullness? Every question weighs on you like stones. You aren't alone. 24 other girls ages 12 to 16 shuffle nervously through this ritual alongside you, each wearing the same haunted glaze, the frozen smile of someone trying to look graceful while being silently graded. No tears are allowed. Crying is disrespectful. Instead, you waiting for your turn, knowing that this evaluation will decide if you're worthy of a life most women would run from if given the chance. A chart is drawn up behind the scenes categorizing you by physical appearance, composure, bloodline, education, and obedience. You glimpse the last one has 3 subcategories: obedience to whom and how much you only guess. You understand perfectly well, follow orders, say thank you, speak only when spoken to. You smile not too broadly, not too coldly, because the wrong expression here could mean the difference between survival and rejection. No applause, no ceremony, just a nod from a senior concubine. A nod that says, "This one will do." Your fate is sealed. Officially, you are now on the path to become one of the emperor's concubines, an entry in the palace ledger, a future shaped by rituals and rules. That night, you share a bowl of sweet rice with other girls accepted alongside you. No one speaks. There's nothing to celebrate, really. You were found attractive enough to be accepted, but not so striking that you'd become an immediate threat. Submissive, but not dull. Ready to spend a lifetime in competition with others who smile the same haunted smile and dream of safety disguised as status. You lie awake wondering about the Emperor. Is he aware of you? Would he remember your face? Would it even matter if he did? You already know the answers, but smile anyway, because now smiling is not a choice. It's part of your uniform. The palace is breathtaking. That's the cruelest joke of all. Towering red walls gleam with gold inlays. Courtyards lined with perfectly trimmed cypress trees. Pavilions with roofs that catch the sunlight like blades. Symmetry, calculation, preservation, all for control, not comfort. The Forbidden City is a marvel, but the inner court, the women's quarters, is a maze of silk, suspicion, and unrelenting quiet. You've moved into a place more beautiful than any prison you could have imagined, and more inescapable. There are around 300 women here layered throughout the palace like geological strata. Some barely visible, some looming like mountains, most watching you behind lacquered screens, their perfectly applied eyeliner sharp as daggers. You occupy the lowest rank near the base of this exquisite social pyramid, sharing a small suite with 3 other girls equally overwhelmed. Your belongings are minimal: one trunk of standard issue robes, a cheap jade hairpin. Everything has a place. You have a place whether you like it or not. Silence dominates. Not peaceful meditation, but tactical, deliberate quiet. Hallways, gardens, dining halls, all governed by unspoken rules on who may speak how loudly and with what expression. Raised voices are not just frowned upon, they are recorded. The Eunuch's Palace eunuchs pass regularly, not hurriedly, but with the purpose that suggests every casual stroll is a surveillance mission. Your fellow concubines watch you carefully, noting how you walk, who you speak to, how you react to correction. A misplaced smile or an overheard sigh can ruin you. You stop sighing altogether. You blink only when necessary. Mirrors are forbidden for you, reserved for trusted, higher-ranking women. You get a polished brass plate, instead warping your reflection, making you doubt if you ever truly looked composed. Your appearance is no longer for you. It's a performance for the court, the emperor, the dowager empress if she passes by. You are a symbol of imperial stability or instability. If you misstep, the consequences are swift. The rules are overwhelming, not complicated, but rigid and absolute. There's a correct way to walk, feet must glide, never lift. A correct way to stand, hands folded at your waist, eyes downcast, back straight but not stiff. A correct way to enter or leave a room, portee. Bow, speak, breathe. But these rules shift subtly depending on who is present. The presence of a senior consort changes everything. The dowager empress's arrival rewrites reality. The emperor's glance can rearrange fate. Most days you never see him. He is the sun, and you are one of 1,000 small flowers hoping for a passing ray of warmth. You hear his footsteps rarely, always with a procession of eunuchs and guards. You bow until your knees ache, though he never looks your way. Still, you wonder what would happen if he did. Imagine the Emperor noticing you not with romance or passion, but a flicker of interest, just enough to alter your rotation to give meaning to the hours spent perfecting posture and powder. That tiny flicker could be the difference between being remembered and fading into obscurity. The senior concubines are your fiercest rivals. They don't speak to you. They glide past like lacquered ghosts wearing flawless makeup and perfume with subtle menace. If lucky, they ignore you. If not a single wrong glance or misplaced compliment from a eunuch could land you in punishment, reassign to the laundry quarters for reflection and silence. No one talks about escape because no one leaves. Some become nuns, some disappear. You try not to think about it too much. You are here now. The gates you walked through remain closed behind you. At night, you lie still in your narrow bed, staring at a polished ceiling that has seen decades of hidden tears and silenced hopes. You can't see the stars or hear the wind. The only sounds are the shuffle of soft shoes and occasional cough, the distant echo of palace life continuing beyond your reach. You close your eyes and imagine freedom, a breeze on your face, a loud laugh, the feeling of being wanted instead of chosen. But that world is gone. You are not a person anymore. You are a whisper in the Emperor's shadow, a name on a scroll you'll never see part of the palace's rituals, its silence, its unyielding rules. Sleep well, you'll need the strength. The rest of your life has just begun. Your new life unfolds in layers like the delicate silk robes that drape your frame, each fold a whisper of restraint, each thread woven with silent expectations. You move through the palace as part of an intricate web, a living piece of a vast, unyielding system. Among the hundreds of women housed within these walls, you might think there would be some kinship, some shared solace in your common fate. But no. The sisterhood here is a mirage, a fragile facade held together by smiles that never quite reach the eyes. Your sisters only in title, bonded by circumstance, but divided by survival. Each woman guards her place fiercely, her eyes constantly scanning for weakness or opportunity. Behind the lacquered screens and painted fans, alliances form and dissolve like mist. Trust is a luxury and betrayal is a currency spent daily. You quickly learn that smiling too brightly or glancing too long can be a death sentence in this silent war. Friendship is a dangerous game, one you can only afford to play with half your heart. A glance shared over tea might mask a knife ready to be plunged when your back is turned. The court is filled with whispers, some harmless, others venomous, and you learn to listen with one ear while showing a placid face to the world. Alliances shift with the seasons, and today's confidant might be tomorrow's rival. It's exhausting and isolating, yet paradoxically necessary. The senior concubines are the queens of this realm, gliding through the courtyards like lacquered ghosts. Their expressions are unreadable, their every movement calculated. They wield subtle power, a raised eyebrow, a whispered word, a deliberately avoided glance that can make or break careers. You watch them with a mix of awe and dread. They were once like you, young, hopeful, and trembling, but time and ruthlessness have turned them into something else entirely. In this hierarchy, you are at the bottom, a newcomer whose every misstep could lead to exile from favor. You learn quickly to blend in, to shrink yourself until you're just a shadow barely noticed, except for the slightest tremble in your posture or the wrong inflection in your voice. Cleverness and individuality are dangerous. They attract scrutiny. Obedience is the currency of survival. The more you master silence and stillness, the longer you last. Your training is relentless but subtle, designed to erase the person you once were and replace her with an idealized image, delicate, graceful, silent. You are taught to walk like a falling petal, to bow with precision, to speak only when spoken to, and then only softly. Your hands are inspected daily for softness. A single callus is a failure, a sign that you are not fulfilling your role as a delicate ornament meant to please, not perform labor. Meals are communal but never social. You eat in long, narrow halls where silence is mandatory. The food is good, better than most of the empire eats, but the taste has drained away for you. You chew mechanically, eyes downcast, hands folded when not in use. Even the act of eating is a performance observed by watchful eyes searching for signs of defiance or weakness. Sigh too loudly, thank the kitchen staff with the wrong tone, and you risk punishment, a reduction in rations, reassignment to menial duties, or worse. You begin to understand that you are here not to live but to exist beautifully and quietly. Your days blur together in a routine of posture drills, embroidery classes, poetry recitations, and endless waiting. You learn to appear calm and ethereal even when your heart pounds with fear and loneliness. The courtyards are meticulously maintained gardens, but their stillness belies the turmoil beneath. Every tree is trimmed with purpose. Every koi pond reflects not serenity but hierarchy. The emperor is a distant figure, more myth than man. You hear his footsteps, rarely always accompanied by guards and eunuchs. He is the sun around which your world orbits, yet his gaze rarely falls on you. Those few women summoned to his chambers are treated like priceless porcelain, veiled and handled with care. For most, the emperor's attention is a hope as distant as the stars. Favor is everything, yet nothing is guaranteed. When your name appears on the Grand Eunuch's list for night duty, everything changes. You are prepared, meticulously washed in orchid-scented water, powdered and painted, dressed in delicate silk robes meant to shimmer just so in candlelight. You become a ceremonial object, available, silent and pleasing. You are wheeled in a palanquin to the emperor's chambers, announced but never welcomed. The meetings are brief, emotionless, sometimes not happening at all. The emperor might speak of irrigation reforms or court gossip, or he might not speak at all. You respond with practiced neutrality, too warm, and you are presumptuous, too cold, and you are ungrateful. Your entire future could hinge on how you react to a passing comment about tea preference. Pregnancy brings a new kind of peril. It offers a glimmer of power, the possibility of status and security, but also puts you under intense scrutiny. From the moment your condition is suspected, you are watched by physicians and palace staff, every movement cataloged. You are moved to special quarters, assigned more maids. Your life adjusted to ensure care or control, depending on your standing. Carrying a son could elevate you. A daughter offers little advantage. Yet even childbirth is a carefully staged event under the watchful eyes of officials, witnesses, and midwives. The palace remembers those who bear heirs, but it also remembers those who disappear after complications or suspicion. Whispers of poison and secret punishments thread through the halls, never spoken openly but always present. Survival here is an endurance test. You become a master of invisibility, of carefully balanced expression and controlled silence. You smile when expected, speak only when necessary, and guard your thoughts like precious jewels. Every day is a calculated performance, every relationship a game of strategy and subtlety. And yet beneath the layers of silk and duty, you hold on to your humanity in small private ways. A fan painted with plum blossoms, a scroll of poetry. Only you can read the quiet memory of laughter, unguarded and free. These are your secret resistances. tiny acts of self amid a world designed to erase you. This is the brutal, beautiful, and heartbreaking life of a concubine in Imperial China. A life not of fairy tales or romance, but of survival, sacrifice, and silent strength. You learn quickly that in the palace, disappearance is a skill one practiced by necessity, honed with grim precision. Your days revolve around fading into the background, mastering the delicate balance of presence and invisibility. The senior concubines serve as chilling examples, once hopeful girls like you, now lacquered phantoms commanding power with a mere flick of their gaze. You watch them glide past with expressions unreadable, their every movement a subtle assertion of dominance. They've survived the palace's silent wars, but at what cost? Their smiles don't reach their eyes, and their power feels brittle like porcelain ready to shatter. Your training deepens beyond etiquette to survival itself. You memorize shifting rules, the correct angle of your bow, the precise timing to speak or stay silent, how to navigate the labyrinth of social cues that determine your fate. These rules morph, depending on the company, present the mood of the Dowager Empress or the Emperor's whims. Every nuance matters. A glance held, too long a laugh, too loud a sigh, too audible can invite demotion, or worse. You practice walking with feet barely lifting from the polished stone floors, hands folded just so eyes downcast but alert. This choreography of stillness is exhausting. Your muscles ache not from labor but from the discipline of restrained movement. Obedience becomes your shield, cleverness your enemy. You smile when you want to cry, laugh when you want to scream. The palace demands an emotional neutral zone, and you learn to inhabit it as a survival strategy. The eunuchs. The eunuchs are everywhere, silent shadows threading through your days and nights. Their eyes miss nothing. They observe your posture, your interactions, your moments of weakness. Their loyalty is not to you, but to power. Befriend one and your life might become easier, an extra steamed bun, a whispered warning of danger. Cross one and you might find your shoes missing, or your name quietly erased from the emperor's rotation. These men control the machinery of palace life. They manage your appearances, announce your name, arrange your schedule, even determine which physician you see. Without their approval, you are invisible. With it, you're at risk. You learn early that their silence can be louder than most conversations, their allegiance is fickle as the wind. You become adept at reading their subtle cues, a lingering look, a slight nod, a curt dismissal. You speak with deference, offering vague compliments and keeping your thoughts carefully guarded. Trust is dangerous. Information is a weapon that can be turned against you. You smile at everyone but trust no one. Beyond the eunuchs, the Dowager Empress wields power with terrifying subtlety. She lives in a suite so opulent it feels like a kingdom unto itself, draped in curtains embroidered with dragons and stitched with silk so fine it might slip through a needle. Her presence is felt before she enters a room. The corridors grow quieter, the air thickens with anticipation. Her mood determines the day's tone. A pleased smile brings warmth and favor, while displeasure silences the court like a sudden winter chill. Few concubines ever meet her directly, but her reach extends everywhere through a vast network of informants, maids, eunuchs, consorts, even visiting nobles. She knows who weeps during etiquette lessons, who hoards sweets, who asks too many questions about promotion. Her opinions are law unchallenged and unappealable. A single raised eyebrow can rearrange your destiny. You learn to tread lightly around her shadow, praying not to be noticed at all. Life in the inner court is a slow unraveling for many. Falling out of favor is a quiet process marked by subtle signs. A new set of less vibrant robes, thinner soup, fewer invitations. Your quarters move to a quieter wing where lanterns flicker and staff forget to refill your tea. Your presence fades until you are nothing more than a shadow drifting through the palace corridors. You keep your head high, but the weight of invisibility presses heavy. You dream sometimes of escape, but the palace walls are not just physical barriers, they are a carefully constructed system designed to keep you in. The gates remain shut, the path beyond forbidden. You are not a guest, but a permanent fixture, a thread woven into the grand tapestry of imperial order. Retirement is not freedom, but a different kind of confinement. A quiet garden for forgotten blooms where dignity fades into loneliness. Pregnancy offers a rare glimmer of hope and terror. Conceiving an heir could elevate your status, yet the stakes are deadly. From the moment signs appear, you fall under heightened surveillance. Physicians with bedside manners like tax auditors monitor you closely, the palace, shifting its gaze from ornament to asset. Your schedule changes, your robes become paler and looser. Your every step watched with a mixture of hope and suspicion. Giving birth is a ceremony fraught with tension. Midwives, officials, and eunuchs attend, ensuring protocol is followed with cold precision. You may scream into a pillow, but dignity must be maintained. A daughter brings modest reward. A son can change everything, sometimes for good, sometimes for ill. Sons are protected, sometimes torn from their mothers within days. The palace's memory is selective rewriting stories to suit political needs. Rumors circulate of concubines who vanish after complications or intrigue. Whispers speak of poisoned secret punishments and forced disappearances never confirmed, always feared. The palace's power extends beyond life itself, shaping destinies with invisible hands. Through it all, you become a master of endurance. You perfect the art of being just interesting enough to survive, just forgettable enough to avoid danger. You weave your days with embroidery, poetry, and the quiet observance of palace politics. You smile at other women while memorizing the patterns of their attacks. You guard your heart, protect your secrets, and navigate the labyrinth with cautious grace. This is survival, silent and relentless, a testament to quiet strength amid the most ruthless of courts. Your life is a slow spiral, a delicate balance of power and invisibility, resilience and submission. You endure because that is all you can do. Life under the watchful eyes of the eunuchs is a lesson in perpetual vigilance. These eunuchs, men removed from the world of family and lineage, are paradoxically the most powerful figures within the palace's walls. They are the oil in the imperial machine, the eyes hidden in the walls, the voices carrying whispers that can topple or elevate in a heartbeat. You quickly understand that their loyalty is to the palace, and whoever holds sway over it, not to you or any of the women whose lives they regulate. From the moment you arrive, a eunuch watches your every move. The same one who escorted you through the grand gates writes your name in the official registry, inspects your teeth, and assigns you the plain robes that mark your rank. Since then, every moment is organized and orchestrated by these men who have traded their bodies for influence. They control your appearances at court, determine your daily schedule, and decide which physician will tend to you. You learn early that befriending a eunuch can make your life easier. A kind glance here, an extra steamed bun there, even a whispered warning about an upcoming shift in favor. But those gestures are tests, currency exchanged for favors, secrets, and loyalty. The eunuchs are practical, never sentimental, and their favor is as fickle as the wind. Misstep by crossing one and you might find your shoes missing your maid, replaced or your name quietly scrubbed from the next ceremony's guest list. Trusting a eunuch is a dangerous gamble. They know the palace's inner workings better than anyone and can manipulate information with deadly precision. Your survival often depends on reading their subtle cues, the slight change in expression, the uncharacteristic silence, the way a glance lingers just a moment too long. You speak softly, offer vague compliments, and keep your thoughts carefully guarded. Knowing too much can be as perilous as knowing too little. Meanwhile, the Dowager Empress looms large in the palace hierarchy. She is the emperor's mother and the true matriarch of the court, wielding absolute and unchallenged power. Her presence is felt before she enters a room. The air thickens, conversations hush, and even the birds seem to sing less. She moves with a slow, deliberate grace, a general commanding her forces with a glance. Few concubines meet her face to face, but her reach is vast. Through an extensive network of informants, including maids, eunuchs, consorts, and nobles, she knows everything. Who cried during the third etiquette lesson? Who's hoarding sweets? Who sneaks out at odd hours or asks too many questions about promotions? Her opinions are decrees. A single offhand comment can rearrange your life. You learn to fear her gaze even from afar and to pray that you remain invisible in her vast web of influence. The palace is a battlefield, but not one fought with swords or armies. It's a war of silence glances and whispered words, sharp enough to cut deeper than any blade. Power shifts with the seasons, sometimes hourly. Alliances form and crumble with equal speed. You are encouraged to be graceful, obedient, and charming, but only enough to be useful, never enough to be threatening. You are here to reflect the glow of those already in power, to be a mirror, not a light. The senior consorts maintain their own courts within the court, complete with spies and informants. Being invited to serve tea in one of their pavilions is both an honor and a test. Your posture, your tone, even the smallest smile are analyzed. One wrong move, a word too ambitious, or a smile too bold, and you might find yourself demoted to a wing where the water is always cold and the lanterns flicker all night. Gifts are another weapon in this silent war. They are currency symbols of loyalty, hints of favor, or veiled threats. A carved jade pendant, a bolt of silk dyed in the right color, a simple comb each carries layered meanings. You accept gifts cautiously aware that each one might be laced with poison, literal or figurative. You taste everything carefully, never eating or drinking, without first ensuring it's safe, though even this doesn't guarantee security. Rumors of poison circulate endlessly, whispered behind fans and in corridors. Tainted tea, spoiled fruit, cosmetic powders laced with slow-actin herbs, these are tools of palace intrigue. When a concubine falls ill unexpectedly, no one speaks openly, but everyone watches closely. Recovery is a minor miracle. Failure is explained away as unfortunate fate or a lapse in discipline. Despite the ever-present danger, you rely on the eunuchs. They deliver your food, arrange your appearances, announce your name, and keep score of favors and missteps. Without them, you are invisible. With them, you are vulnerable. You learn to navigate this complex landscape with cautious grace. You offer compliments that sound sincere but are vague enough not to be weaponized. You smile at everyone but trust no one. You remember everyone's birthday but hide your own opinions. Survival depends on being just interesting enough to be kept, but never intriguing enough to attract dangerous attention. And so your days blend into a slow spiral of vigilance, performance, and quiet desperation. You exist in a world where every word is measured, every gesture weighted, and every glance could shift your fate. In the palace, stillness isn't just a virtue, it's survival. You quickly learn that your ability to remain calm, graceful, and silent shapes your entire existence. You are taught to embody an ideal, a living porcelain doll whose beauty captivates but whose presence never disrupts. Your movements become rehearsed dances, your smiles measured performances. But beneath this polished exterior lies a nervous energy that threatens to unravel you at any moment. Obedience is your currency, and silence your armor. You learn to quiet the part of yourself that wants to scream, to protest, to be heard. Cleverness becomes a liability, a dangerous spark that can ignite suspicion or jealousy. Instead, you master the art of disappearing in plain sight, blending seamlessly into the background, avoiding the notice of those who wield power. Your days are regimented. You wake before dawn, your hair combed and your face powdered. You attend posture lessons where every angle of your walk is critiqued. You sit through embroidery classes where the senior concubines gently correct your stitching while their eyes evaluate your demeanor. You memorize poetry not to write but to recite when prompted during court gatherings, a way to display refinement without revealing your thoughts. Meals are silent affairs. You eat delicately, never too quickly or too slowly, your eyes fixed modestly on your bowl. A misplaced glance or an unguarded expression can draw criticism, and the punishments for such offenses are subtle but effective. You might find yourself reassigned to less favorable quarters, your meals chilled, your presence ignored. The palace gardens offer no respite. Beautifully maintained with bonsai trees and koi ponds, they are stages for the theater of hierarchy. Even the squirrels seem to understand the protocols, darting about with cautious grace. You walk the designated paths twice a day, always in pairs or small groups, always silent unless addressed. Stray off course and you risk losing favor or worse. Conversations are currency here, but everyone is bankrupt. You overhear fragments of gossip: who has been promoted, who has fallen out of favor, who is rumored to be ill under suspicious circumstances. You file these tidbits away, knowing they may be useful or deadly. When someone vanishes, their absence is noted in hushed tones but never explained. Your role is to exist as a symbol, delicate, poised, and compliant. You are not a woman in the traditional sense anymore. You are a piece of imperial art, a carefully curated ornament in the emperor's collection. Your body is a tool your emotions regulated, your identity slowly erased. Yet despite this, you hold on to small fragments of self. A fan painted with plum blossoms, a ribbon from home, a scroll of poetry only you can read. These are your secret treasures, reminders that beneath the silken facade you remain human. Night is the hardest part of the day. The palace quiets, but your mind races. You lie awake on a narrow bed, staring at the shuttered windows, the thick walls, and the polished ceiling. The silence is absolute, broken only by the soft shuffle of slippers or the distant cough of another girl. You think about freedom, the wind on your face, the sound of laughter, the feeling of being wanted. But those thoughts are fleeting, replaced by the stark reality of your existence. The emperor remains a distant figure, more concept than man. His footsteps echo, rarely accompanied by a procession of guards and eunuchs. He is the sun in this vast court, but his light touches only a select few. To most, he is a myth, a presence felt but never truly known. Favor is the closest thing to power you can grasp. When your name appears on the eunuch's list for night duty, the palace shifts subtly. Your maid brushes your hair more carefully, your meals improve, and other concubines treat you with thinly veiled jealousy. The higher-ranking women may ignore you, but that is often worse. It means they are certain you pose no threat. The ritual of preparing for the emperor's chambers is meticulous. You are washed with orchid-scented water, your skin softened to fragility. Your hair is styled in elaborate updos, your cheeks dusted, your lips tinted with crushed flower paste. Your robes are lighter sheer, more ornamental than practical. You are no longer a person. You are an offering available, silent and pleasing. You are carried in a curtained palanquin flanked by eunuchs who treat you like precious furniture. When you arrive, you wait on a stool silent and still until the emperor appears, sometimes immediately, sometimes after an hour or more, and sometimes not at all. There is no romance here, no whispered promises. The meetings are clinical, efficient, devoid of affection. Intimacy is a duty, a sacred service to the empire. You lie still, smile faintly, and try not to breathe too loudly. Sometimes the emperor falls asleep before you do. Other times he talks about irrigation reforms or court gossip while you stare at the ceiling. You are not here to be loved. You are here to be tolerated in elegant silence. Pregnancy changes everything. It can be your salvation or your doom. The moment your condition is suspected, your life is scrutinized like never before. Physicians arrive with cold efficiency, taking your pulse, asking vague questions. You receive special food and bedding, and your schedule changes. No more embroidery, no more tea ceremonies. You are no longer a decoration, but a potential vessel for the empire's future. But with this possibility comes danger. You become a political asset, your body a battleground. A misstep, a draft in your quarters, a bowl of soup that tastes off could be fatal. You learn to walk with dignity, speak softly, and smile with a maternal glow that implies gratitude without arrogance. Complaints or weakness are punishable offenses. Birth is a ritual overseen by doctors, officials, and midwives, each ensuring protocol is followed precisely. You may scream into a pillow, but you must not curse or act unseemly. Dignity in agony is demanded. A daughter brings modest acknowledgement. A son changes your status entirely. But even motherhood is fraught with loss. Your son may be taken away within days, raised by wet nurses and nannies, leaving you with only the knowledge of his existence. The palace remembers selectively. Stories circulate of concubines who bore sons and vanished, of infants who died mysteriously, of mothers punished for their children's deaths. These tales are whispered behind closed doors, never confirmed but always feared. Through all this, you learn that survival requires endurance more than ambition. You become a quiet observer, a shadow on the palace walls. You smile when expected, listen more than you speak, and navigate the endless games of power with cautious grace. This is the brutal life of a concubine in Imperial China, a life of beauty wrapped in silence, of strength hidden beneath silk, and of survival in the face of relentless control. The palace is a maze of whispered secrets and silent rivalries, where every word is weighed and every gesture carries hidden meaning. You quickly realize that information is power and danger. Gossip flows through the corridors like smoke curling around corners, filling the air with rumors that can lift you to favor or drag you down into obscurity. To survive here, you must become a master of listening without speaking, of reading between the lines, without revealing your own thoughts. Conversations in the palace are currency, and everyone is bankrupt until proven otherwise. You catch fragments: who has been moved to better quarters, who has been reassigned to menial tasks, who is rumored to be ill under suspicious circumstances. You file these away mentally, cataloging the shifts in power and favor. When someone disappears, the silence speaks volumes, and the echoes of their absence linger like a warning. You learn to cloak your true feelings to hide frustration, fear, or anger behind a calm exterior. The slightest display of weakness can be reported to the eunuchs or the senior consorts, and the consequences are swift and unforgiving. The palace enforces a strict code of conduct, not just with rules, but with surveillance and psychological control. You become accustomed to being watched, judged, and edited out of narratives you never had a say in. Punishments here are more psychological than physical, though both exist. You might be reassigned to laundry duty, scrubbing the linens of those who wish you forgotten. The humiliation of folding and washing becomes a tool of control, a reminder of your place in the hierarchy. Public beatings are rare but serve as grim spectacles to enforce obedience. More often, the palace prefers subtle erasures, a missing invitation, a colder meal, a slower response from your maid. In this environment, alliances are as necessary as they are fragile. You smile at other women, exchange polite words, and offer vague compliments that carry no real meaning but signal civility. You remember birthdays and favorite scents, never revealing your own preferences. You study the patterns of favor and downfall, watching which concubines rise and which fade into the shadows. This knowledge becomes your compass, guiding your cautious navigation through the court's labyrinthine politics. The power dynamics extend beyond the women. The eunuchs, silent orchestrators of palace life, hold immense sway. They decide who receives invitations, who gets better food, who is presented before the emperor. Befriending one can grant access to small mercies or vital information, but their favor is transactional and fleeting. You learn to read their moods to offer the right gifts to avoid crossing them. They are middlemen in a system that values utility over loyalty. Even with all these challenges, some women manage to rise through the ranks. But their stories are often whispered as cautionary tales of ambition punished, of rivals destroyed, of power gained at great personal cost. The highest-ranking consorts wield authority like weapons, their beauty and influence cloaked in menace. They command entourages, hold informal courts, and manipulate the flow of favors with expert precision. The palace is a battlefield fought with perfume bottles, silk fans, and carefully worded invitations. The favored smile sweetly but carry the weight of generals. You are a spectator in this war, allowed only to participate on the smallest stage. Every decision about where to sit, whom to nod at, and when to speak is a move in a long, slow chess game where the stakes are your life and sanity. Despite the pressure, you find moments of quiet resistance. A poem memorized and recited softly during a gathering. A carefully placed stitch in an embroidery that speaks of longing and loss. A fleeting glance at the garden beyond the palace walls, imagining a world where you are free to walk without fear. These small acts become your refuge, your way of preserving your identity in a place designed to erase it. You carry the weight of the palace's expectations, but also the stories of those who came before you. Women who endured, who vanished, who fought silently. Their legacy is not written in scrolls or sung in ballads, but lives in the quiet strength of survival. You are part of this lineage, a thread woven into the complex tapestry of imperial history. As you lie in your narrow bed at night, the silence of the palace envelops you. The distant sounds of footsteps, whispered conversations, and the rustle of silk are a lullaby and a warning. Sleep is elusive but necessary. Tomorrow will bring the same rituals, the same performances, the same delicate dance of obedience and survival. In this palace of shadows and light, you are both invisible and indispensable. Your life is a quiet testament to resilience, a story of strength forged in silence. The brutal life of a concubine in Imperial China is not just about beauty and power. It is about enduring the impossible with grace and courage. Word count Midas 1094. Every day is a lesson in survival, and the most important lesson is learning your place in the palace hierarchy. A complex web of ranks, rituals, and rules that dictate everything from your clothing to your schedule to the direction you bow. The imperial ranking system for concubines is both dazzlingly complex and depressingly efficient, designed to keep you aware of exactly where you stand and how easily you could fall. At the very top is the empress, the one woman to rule them all. Beneath her are the consorts, noble consorts, pure consorts, and a dizzying array of half-ozens and variations in between. Each rank is marked by robes dyed in colors you are forbidden to even look at directly, and headdresses that defy both gravity and reason. Then come the concubines, like you technically part of the hierarchy, but treated more like ornamental background music. Below, you are the palace maids who clean, serve, and know everything you say when you think no one is listening. Your rank determines the color palette of your robes, the size and location of your living quarters, your daily schedule, and even the etiquette manual you must memorize. You receive a tidy stack of bamboo slips outlining precisely when you may leave your quarters, how far you may walk, and which direction to bow when passing a superior. Your meals are no longer communal but delivered by a maid whose politeness fluctuates with your current favorability score. Warm soup today may turn lukewarm tomorrow, a subtle reminder of your standing. You begin to notice the patterns higher-ranking consorts do not speak to you, and you would never dare speak to them unless invited. They glide through courtyards surrounded by attendants and tiny judgmental cats that seem to know exactly who has power and who does not. Their gowns are stitched with golden thread and symbols of mythical authority, while your own robes bear chrysanthemums and fraying cuffs. Your job officially is to be available. Available for what depends entirely on the emperor's mood, the lunar calendar, and a court system that views female attention as a limited commodity to be rationed, rotated, and often withheld. When your name comes up, and it might eventually, you are summoned for grooming dressed by attendants and presented for inspection like a ceremonial plate. If chosen, you may spend an evening in the emperor's chambers. If not, you return to your quarters and practice looking grateful. Favor determines everything from your food to how you are addressed. Falling out of favor is easy, rising is not. A poor posture, a mistimed smile, or an unflattering comment from a jealous rival can cost you dearly. Gain favor, and your room moves closer to the emperor's residence. Lose it, and you are quietly relocated to the far wing of the palace where the halls are drafty, and the staff forget your preferences. You memorize these subtle signs like a survival manual, the direction the hot tea is brought from the precise time your meals arrive, the patterns of visits from maids and eunuchs. You learn to navigate the ebb and flow of court politics with careful politeness, offering compliments that sound sincere but are vague enough not to be weaponized. You smile at everyone but trust no one. Punishments are not always overt but are always effective. Speak out of turn or offend someone above your station, and that includes nearly everyone. And you may find yourself assigned to laundry detail. Laundry duty in the palace is less about folding linens and more about scrubbing the outer garments of people who want to forget you ever existed. Each wet sleeve, each whispered exchange among senior maids reminds you of your place. Physical punishment exists but is rare as it leaves marks. Humiliation, however, is its own violence. You have seen concubines demoted, publicly stripped of their ornaments, forced to stand in the cold until they faint. These lessons are clear. Your dignity is conditional, your rank temporary, and the palace has a long memory for insolence, but a very short one for your better days. Despite all this, you begin to learn how to navigate. You study the patterns of favor and disfavor, learning which concubines are rising and which are falling. You memorize the preferences of mid-ranking eunuchs who control access to the emperor's schedule. You perfect the art of being pleasant and forgettable, a safer choice than being memorable. You are allowed a few personal items: a fan with painted plum blossoms, a hair ribbon from home, a small scroll of poetry to recite when the room is too quiet. These things are yours, small islands of identity in a sea of control. You come to understand that being a concubine is not about love or attraction. It's about visibility. The emperor can elevate you with a single glance, but most of the time he doesn't look at all. You are part of the machinery, a living ornament somewhere between furniture and flora. You are not the empress, not a maid, not even a confidant, just a controlled variable in the imperial experiment. For now your rank is low, but in a place where people vanish for being inconvenient, sometimes surviving unnoticed is its own form of victory. You wake before the sun, not because anyone expects anything productive from you, but because being awake early is considered virtuous. You sit quietly while a maid, barely acknowledging your presence, ties your sash a little too tightly. Perhaps annoyed, perhaps bored. You don't ask why. Questions imply deserving answers. This is your new normal. Each morning begins with silent grooming hair, combed face-powdered posture, adjusted like a porcelain doll carefully placed on a shelf. There is no one person to please. It is a collective expectation, a rigid structure you learn to accept. Breakfast is a study in control. You sit at a lacquered table with 3 other concubines' names, remembered only because of shared walking schedules. Silence dominates, broken only when a person of importance passes by, prompting polite laughter as if the past minutes of mute tension were accidental. The food is delicate congee pickled radish, steamed buns, but none of it tastes like anything anymore. You eat slowly, eyes downcast, hands folded when not in use. Enthusiasm is suspicious appetite, even more so. After breakfast comes waiting, always waiting. Officially called leisure time, it's anything but leisurely. You sit in the courtyard or in an interior parlor, depending on the weather. Embroidering flowers, you will never wear writing poetry. You can't share sipping reheated tea that barely counts as warm. You practice calm contentment. A slightly ethereal presence because someone may pass by and you need to look pleasant, not memorable, just enough to seem safe. Activities are mere theater. Tea ceremonies require sitting on silk cushions, pretending to care deeply about the angle at which the teapot is held. Music sessions involve tuning instruments more often than playing them, and embroidery classes become subtle evaluations of your posture and tone. None are optional. None are enjoyable. They exist solely to display your refinement, your patience, and your utter lack of personal ambition. You are allowed to walk twice a day, but only along designated paths and never alone. You move in pairs or small groups, silent unless addressed. The gardens are impeccably maintained with rock arrangements, bonsai trees and koi ponds so pristine they might be lacquered. It should be peaceful, but you know better than to mistake stillness for serenity. Everything is staged, every tree trimmed, every pond curated, even the squirrels seeming to understand protocol. The rest of the day is spent sitting or pretending not to eavesdrop. Conversations are currency, and everyone is bankrupt. You overhear fragments: someone moved to better quarters, another reassigned to food preparation, a concubine developing a mysterious cough that may or may not be politically convenient. You don't ask questions, you file everything away. If something is important, it will come back around. When someone vanishes, rumors swirl, but answers never come. You are summoned occasionally, never for anything exciting. A eunuch might inform you of your presence being required at a cultural recital, where you sit silently for hours watching a minor court musician play the guqin while someone translates tragic poetry. You are not allowed to react emotionally. Or you may be asked to assist a higher-ranking concubine, with her attire a reminder that she outranks you, and you exist to reflect her importance. You smile, hold the mirror, and receive no thanks. You don't expect any. The emperor, of course, does not appear. He is busy with state affairs, or so you are told. On rare occasions, you hear his footsteps in the central corridor, always accompanied by a small procession. You bow as he passes, holding the pose until your knees ache. He doesn't look at you, and you don't expect him to. Still, you wonder what might happen if he did. You imagine a flicker of interest, not romance, just enough to change your rotation to make the hours of posture and powder mean something. Evenings are unbearable. There is a long stretch between dinner and lights out where you are expected to engage in refined, personal development. More embroidery, more poetry, more sitting in heavily scented rooms pretending not to feel the stale perfume cling to your skin. Occasionally, a senior concubine performs a recital, a calligraphy demonstration, or a lesson in flower arranging. You sit through these performances like a student in an endless finishing school, applauding with measured politeness, careful not to clap louder than others. You go to bed when told not a moment sooner. You lie still with your back, straight eyes open to the dark ceiling above. There is no moonlight here, the windows are shuttered. The walls thick, the silence total. The only sound is the occasional shuffle of eunuch slippers or the quiet cough of another girl down the hall. You think about tomorrow. It will be the same waking, walking, waiting. The same meals, the same drills, the same emotional neutrality required to survive. You begin to understand that you are not a woman in the traditional sense anymore. You are a ceremonial function, a moving, breathing, beautifully dressed afterthought. The palace runs on structure, and you are one of its replaceable cogs. You are not expected to create anything, only to exist gracefully, endlessly, without complaint. Time is measured not in days, but in promotions which never come, and punishments which always do. You hold yourself, carefully speak only when prompted, smile just enough. Daily life is a performance of perfection played for an audience that rarely bothers to look. There is a schedule, of course. In a palace where your daily walk is timed and your tea temperature practically legislated, it makes sense that the emperor's sex life runs like a bureaucratic train timetable. At the beginning of every lunar month, the Grand Eunuch of Internal Affairs prepares a neat, orderly list of concubines selected for night duty. The rotation is determined by rank, recent favor, political alliances, and occasional whim disguised as strategic decisions. You are not informed directly. Instead, your maid brushes your hair more carefully, and the soup improves. That is how you know your name has appeared on the list. The air around you changes. people who ignored you last week now look at you with thin smiles. Fellow concubines grow suspiciously complimentary. One even offers you candied plum from her private stash, less an act of kindness and more a subtle request to be remembered. If things go well, higher-ranking women won't acknowledge you at all. This is somehow worse. It means they see you as no threat certain. Your night will be uneventful or short-lived. You are summoned to the bathing hall at dusk, not to bathe yourself, of course, but to be scrubbed by attendants who polish you like expensive porcelain. You are washed in water scented with orchid petals and rinsed until your skin feels fragile like stretched rice paper. Your hair is oiled and styled in a complicated updo. Your nails are painted, cheeks dusted, lips tinted with crushed flour paste. The goal is to make you ethereal, otherworldly, and above all, pleasing and soft. Candlelight is adjusted just so enough to suggest warmth, but no actual personality. You are not expected to speak unless spoken to. You are not expected to initiate. You are in essence a ceremonial object, an offering not of love or companionship, but of availability. The palanquin carries you across the palace grounds, curtained and flanked by eunuchs who have seen this ritual hundreds of times, maintaining the detached demeanor of people transporting expensive furniture. At the emperor's chambers you are announced but not welcomed. The inner room is quiet, screens closed. You wait on a stool while the eunuchs finish their arrangements, bow, then leave you in silence. Sometimes the emperor appears immediately, sometimes you wait an hour or longer and he never comes at all. There are evenings when court matters or distractions keep him away. On those nights, you return to your quarters with no comment, your effort evaporating like the orchid water you were scrubbed in. If he does arrive, the tone is not romantic. There are no secret rendezvous, no whispered promises. It is more like a diplomatic meeting in soft lighting. He may speak, he may not. He might ask about your province, your calligraphy, or gossip from the Grand Council. He might want music or silence. You respond with a balance of polite attentiveness and complete emotional neutrality. Too warm and you're presumptuous. Too cold and you're ungrateful. Your entire future might rest on how convincingly you react to a passing comment about tea preference. Pregnancy in the palace is a double-edged sword, both a precious gift and a perilous trial. When you first notice the subtle changes in your body, a mix of hope and dread swells within you. Conceiving a child, especially a son, could elevate your standing, even grant you a sliver of power in a world where your voice is otherwise muted. Yet with this hope comes intense scrutiny. You quickly realize that pregnancy here isn't a private journey. It's a public event managed, monitored, and controlled by the palace with ruthless precision. From the moment your condition is suspected, your daily life changes dramatically. Physicians, eunuchs, and servants swarm around you, their expressions clinical and detached. You are relocated to special quarters rooms, bathed in soft light and filled with the scent of medicinal herbs. Here, comfort is carefully measured. Too much relaxation might be seen as indulgence, too little as neglect. Your diet shifts to carefully prepared foods designed to nourish your body and the growing life within, but always with an eye on discipline and protocol. You quickly learn that the palace treats pregnancy like a political campaign, complete with surveillance and strategy. Every movement is catalogued, every symptom reported. The presence of the Dowager Empress looms large, her interest in your condition. A silent command for you to remain composed and perfect. You become a vessel, not just of life, but of imperial ambition, a symbol of continuity for the dynasty. There is little room for personal emotion. Complaints about morning sickness or discomfort are met with cold efficiency or veiled disapproval. Your strength is tested daily as you are expected to maintain your grace and composure despite the physical challenges. The maids attend to your needs with robotic precision, and even kindness feels like a carefully scripted performance. The days are long filled with rituals designed to protect your health and status. You undergo frequent examinations, pulse checks, herbal treatments, and dietary adjustments administered by palace physicians whose loyalty lies with power, not care. You learn to accept their probing glances and invasive questions, understanding that your survival depends as much on compliance as on health. The anticipation of childbirth brings its own layer of anxiety. The palace prepares for the event with meticulous planning, assembling midwives, eunuchs, and officials who will witness and document every moment. You are reminded constantly that this is not just a birth, but a state occasion. The outcome will ripple through the corridors of power, affecting alliances and your own standing. Giving birth in the palace is a ritual shrouded in ceremony and silence. You are surrounded by witnesses whose faces betray nothing. Midwives poised to intervene, eunuchs ready to report, physicians calculating risks. Pain and fear are to be endured quietly, concealed behind a veneer of dignity. There is no room for screams or tears. Your suffering is a private matter, unseen and unheard. A son changes everything. News of a male heir spreads quickly through the palace, elevating your status overnight. You receive new robes, improved quarters, and the careful attention of powerful allies. But even this triumph is tinged with loss. Your child may be taken away within days to be raised by wet nurses and tutors removed from your care to be groomed as the future of the empire. If you bear a daughter, the rewards are more modest and the risks remain high. The palace remembers selectively, and female offspring often fade into the background, their mothers left to navigate the complex politics of favor and disfavor, without the protective shield of an heir. Stories circulate in hushed tones about concubines who disappear after complications or political intrigues surrounding their pregnancies. Whispers of poison, forced miscarriages, and secret punishments haunt the palace halls, never confirmed, but always feared. These tales are reminders of the palace's ruthless nature, a place where survival is precarious and power is fleeting. Through pregnancy and childbirth, you become both a symbol and a target. Your body carries the empire's hopes, but your life hangs by a thread. You learn to navigate this treacherous terrain with caution and resilience, holding on to the small moments of strength that define your humanity amid the relentless control. Even as you endure, you find solace in quiet rituals, touching the jade pendant your mother gave you, reciting poetry in your mind, imagining a life beyond the palace walls. These acts of quiet rebellion keep your spirit alive, a fragile flame in the shadowed halls of imperial power. Pregnancy is not just a test of your body, but of your will. In this brutal world, it is one of the few chances to claim a lasting legacy, to be more than a whisper in the emperor's shadow. And for that, you endure every hardship, every scrutiny, every silent demand. Favor in the palace is a fickle flame, sometimes flickering bright and warm, other times dying out without warning, leaving you in cold shadow. It's the currency that dictates your entire existence, determining who receives special meals, comfortable quarters, and the precious gift of the emperor's attention. But favor is as unpredictable as the shifting winds, a blessing and a curse that can elevate you one day and cast you into obscurity the next. You quickly learn that favor isn't earned through virtue or kindness. It is won by subtle performances, an artful smile, a well-timed compliment, a carefully measured silence. It is a game played on a knife's edge where the smallest misstep, a too bold word, an unguarded expression, or even a rival's whispered accusation can cost you dearly. The emperor's favor is the ultimate prize, yet he is often absent or indifferent. His presence is like the sun, distant and overwhelming, casting light on some and leaving others in the cold. You become acutely aware that his attention is a limited resource, carefully rationed among the women who surround him. When you are summoned to his chambers, the palace shifts subtly, your maid's touch becomes gentler, your food more savory, your garments finer. Other concubines watch with thinly veiled envy or cold indifference. Favor brings perks, better quarters closer to the emperor's apartments, additional attendance, more sumptuous meals. It can mean immunity from menial tasks or the chance to participate in exclusive ceremonies. Yet these benefits are never guaranteed to last. A rival's envy, a political shift, or the emperor's changing mood can snatch favor away as swiftly as it was granted. You come to understand the importance of appearances in maintaining favor. Your posture must be impeccable. Your smile perfectly practiced, your words carefully chosen. You learn to anticipate the emperor's preferences, his favored scents, his preferred teas, even the subtle changes in his expression that signal approval or displeasure. You become an expert at reading moods, adapting your behavior to suit the ever-shifting landscape. But favor is also a dangerous trap. Those who gain too much attention risk becoming targets of jealousy and intrigue. You hear stories of concubines who rose too quickly only to be cast down by rumors or accidents that conveniently remove rivals. The palace is a place where power is rarely shared peacefully, and the fall from grace can be swift and brutal. Jealousy manifests in subtle ways. Silent glares, whispered slights, manipulated alliances. You learn to navigate these waters with care, choosing your words and gestures to avoid provoking envy. You smile at your rivals, offering polite compliments while keeping your true feelings hidden. Trust is a rare commodity, and betrayal lurks behind every friendly face. Sometimes favor is bought or sold through gifts, and favors exchanged in private. A jade pendant, a bolt of silk, a secret letter, each carries meanings beyond their material value. These exchanges are delicate dances of loyalty and obligation, and missteps can have serious consequences. You learn to give and receive with tact, aware that every gift is a potential weapon. Favor extends beyond the emperor. The Dowager Empress and senior consorts wield immense influence over who rises and who falls. Their opinions, often expressed through subtle gestures or quiet words, can determine your future. Aligning with powerful patrons offers protection and opportunities, but also ties you to their fortunes and rivalries. You begin to understand that favor is not just about beauty or charm, but about politics, alliances, and survival skills. It is a web of relationships that you must weave carefully, balancing ambition with caution. Your every move is watched, your reputation, a fragile thread that can unravel at the slightest touch. Despite the pressures, you find moments of quiet triumph in small acts, being chosen to play a musical piece for the emperor, receiving a rare compliment from a senior consort, or simply surviving another day without misstep. These victories, however minor, are vital to your sense of self and hope. Favor is a fickle flame, yes, but it is also a lifeline in a world where power is scarce and survival is uncertain. You learn to cherish it, protect it, and above all, never take it for granted. And as you navigate this treacherous dance, you remind yourself that favor today does not guarantee favor tomorrow. Your place in the palace is never secure. It is earned anew with every breath, every gesture, every calculated smile. In this world of silk and shadows, favor is both a gift and a burden, a beacon of hope and a warning of peril. To live here is to walk the tightrope of power, balancing delicately between light and darkness, visibility and invisibility, hope and despair. Punishment in the palace is a language spoken softly but understood clearly, a quiet form of violence that leaves no bruises but cuts just as deep. Unlike the brutal public spectacles, one might expect discipline here is subtle, insidious, and carefully designed to maintain the illusion of order and grace. Infractions, whether a misplaced word, a late arrival, or a too bold smile, are met with consequences that range from cold neglect to strategic isolation. When you falter, you might find your meals arriving colder, the soup less flavorful, or the cushions in your chambers replaced with harder, less comfortable ones. These small discomforts accumulate, wearing down your resolve and reminding you of your precarious standing. Sometimes your maid might become distant or curt, refusing your usual attentions as a silent reprimand. These are the palace's whispered punishments, invisible to all but those who endure them. More tangible consequences await those who challenge the strict codes of conduct. You hear tales of concubines reassigned to the laundry quarters, a demotion that strips dignity as surely as chains. There, under the harsh glare of lanterns, they scrub linens and uniforms, their status reduced to that of servants. The menial labor is not just punishment, but public shaming, a reminder to all of the price of disobedience. Physical punishments are rare but not unheard of. They are carefully concealed, administered in the shadows by the eunuchs who enforce the palace's strict discipline. Beatings, though taboo in the imperial court, happen quietly, marking bodies that must be hidden beneath layers of silk. These punishments are tools of terror, ensuring compliance without scandal. Humiliation is a favored weapon of the court. You witness concubines stripped of their ornamental accessories, made to stand in drafty corridors until fainting from cold and shame. These displays, though rare, serve as stark warnings. The palace cultivates an atmosphere where dignity is a privilege, not a right, and every gesture of pride can be swiftly erased. Isolation is another cruel form of punishment. You might find yourself confined to quarters with limited light, fewer attendants, and reduced rations. The social exile cuts deeply in a world where connection is power. Being ignored by peers and superiors alike creates a suffocating loneliness that chips away at the spirit. The palace enforces these punishments not only to correct behavior but to reinforce the rigid hierarchy. They serve as constant reminders that obedience is the currency of survival and that deviation, even in thought, can be costly. You internalize this truth quickly, learning to suppress your instincts and desires. Yet the punishment system is also a game of appearances. Public spectacles are avoided to preserve the palace's image of serene order. The true control lies in the quiet adjustments, changing the tone of a servant's voice, delaying a meal, withholding a favor. These subtle shifts convey disapproval and danger without drawing attention. You learn to read these signs with growing expertise, sensing when a glance is colder, a tone sharper, or a smile forced. These are the cues that determine your next moves: when to speak, when to stay silent, whom to avoid. The palace's social terrain is a minefield, and one misstep can trigger a punishment that echoes through your days. Despite the fear, you find ways to resist quietly. You hide small comforts, a better thread for embroidery, a rare piece of fruit hidden in your sleeve, a whispered poem recited to yourself in moments of solitude. These acts of subtle defiance become your refuge, ways to preserve your identity against the palace's erasure. You observe how some women endure punishment with stoic grace, while others break under the weight of humiliation. Survival requires a delicate balance between compliance and resilience, a dance where every gesture is calculated to maintain favor while avoiding retribution. Historians still argue whether these punishments were primarily tools of control or reflections of broader societal norms. What is clear is that for concubines, punishment was woven into daily life, shaping behavior and reinforcing the palace's brutal order. In this environment, punishment is both a shield and a weapon, a mechanism that enforces discipline while fostering an atmosphere of constant anxiety. It is a language without words, spoken through silence, avoidance, and calculated cruelty. And so you learn to live with it, adapting your behavior to the ever-changing rules, mastering the art of survival in a place where every action is scrutinized and every misstep has consequences. Navigating the political currents of the palace is like walking a narrow path over a chasm filled with unseen dangers. Every alliance is fragile, every smile potentially a mask hiding a dagger. The court is a sea of shifting tides. Whispers and glances become weapons more powerful than swords. You learn quickly that survival is less about strength and more about subtlety, reading between the lines and playing your cards close to your chest. Your days become a delicate dance of alliances and avoidance. You smile at the right person, nod when expected, and avoid confrontations that could spark grudges. Behind the polished smiles are rivalries simmering beneath the surface, with consorts vying for influence and favor. They compete not just for the emperor's attention, but for the ear of the empress and the loyalty of the eunuchs who control access to power. The palace corridors echo with whispered conversations, exchanged glances, and cryptic gestures. You learn to listen with one ear while appearing to be lost in embroidery or poetry recitation. Information flows like a secret river, and those who know how to navigate it can steer their fortunes. You keep your words measured, revealing little while gathering as much as possible. In this web of intrigue, even servants can be powerful players. Maids and eunuchs often act as spies and messengers, their loyalty bought and sold with discreet gifts or veiled threats. You befriend those who seem trustworthy, but you always remember that trust here is fragile and fleeting. A secret shared today can become tomorrow's scandal. You observe how senior concubines wield influence behind closed doors. They hold private audiences, exchange favors, and orchestrate subtle campaigns to undermine rivals. Their power is both formal and informal, exerted through social networks, control of resources, and manipulation of perceptions. Their eyes, sharp and calculating, watch every newcomer with suspicion, ready to pounce on any mistake. Your own political acumen grows as you study these patterns. You understand the importance of discretion, of knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. You learn to express loyalty without overstepping, to offer help without appearing too eager. You become adept at interpreting silences and reading between the lines of casual remarks. The palace is also a place where rumors can spread like wildfire. A whispered accusation can ruin a reputation. A misconstrued glance can ignite jealousy. You learn to be careful with your associations to avoid being drawn into conflicts that do not concern you. Sometimes staying invisible is the safest strategy. Yet politics are unavoidable. Every favor you receive, every opportunity you gain, is entangled in alliances and rivalries. You must navigate this complex landscape with care, balancing ambition with caution. You learn to pick your battles wisely to build relationships that protect rather than expose you. The stakes are high. Success can bring improved living conditions, greater access to the emperor, and a measure of security. Failure can lead to isolation, demotion, or worse disappearance from the palace records, and sometimes from life itself. Amid this tension, you find moments of solidarity, brief connections with other women who understand the precariousness of your shared existence. These friendships are guarded and fleeting, but provide small comforts in an otherwise harsh world. Historians still argue whether the palace's political intrigues were a reflection of broader societal power dynamics or unique to the imperial court. Regardless, for you, they are an inescapable reality shaping every moment. You develop a keen sense of timing, learning when to advance and when to retreat. You recognize the power of silence, of listening more than speaking. You become a careful observer, watching the subtle shifts in alliances and moods. In this ever-changing environment, your ability to adapt is your greatest strength. You survive by blending into the background, aligning with the right people, and avoiding unnecessary risks. Each day is a new test, a new challenge to maintain your delicate balance. And so you continue to navigate the palace's political currents with cautious grace, aware that your future depends on your skill in this silent and dangerous game. Tokens of ownership in the palace are never just what they seem. A simple gift, a comb, a silk handkerchief, a delicate jade pendant is laden with meanings as complex as the court itself. These tokens are part of a silent language, a web of signals conveying favor, allegiance warning, or veiled threats. You learn to read these gestures with the same care you give to every word and glance, because misunderstanding a gift can be as dangerous as ignoring it. Gifts are exchanged carefully, often behind closed doors or in the quiet corners of gardens. They carry symbolic weight. A comb may suggest intimacy or control a handkerchief, a promise or a reminder, a piece of jade, a claim of protection or possession. To accept a gift is to accept an unspoken contract, one that binds you in loyalty or indebtedness. Refusing a gift can be seen as insult or rejection, with consequences that ripple through the intricate social fabric. You remember your first gift, an embroidered pouch from a senior consort. The pouch was exquisite, filled with fragrant herbs and tiny charms. On the surface, it seemed an act of kindness, but you sense the underlying message. You are now under my watch. You accepted it with a cautious smile, knowing that every gift is a test, every token a thread in the palace's tangled web. Tokens are also used as weapons. Poisoned jewelry, tainted cosmetics, or cursed trinkets are whispered about in the darker corners of the court. While concrete evidence is scarce, the fear they inspire is very real. A misplaced gift or an unguarded moment can turn a token into a tool of destruction. You learn to handle gifts with ritual care, inspecting them, testing them discreetly, and storing them away from prying eyes. You give gifts in return equally layered with meaning. A bolt of silk dyed in the emperor's favorite color, a delicately crafted fan, a scroll of poetry with hidden verses. These exchanges are a dance of loyalty and strategy, each movement choreographed to avoid offense and secure advantage. The giving and receiving of tokens extends beyond the palace walls. Visiting nobles, envoys, and foreign dignitaries bring their own offerings, which become part of the complex economy of favors and alliances. These external gifts carry diplomatic weight, and you watch how they influence the palace's internal politics with keen interest. At times you witness tokens used as bribes, quiet payments to eunuchs for information. or gifts to maids who serve as informal messengers. These exchanges are shadow deals, the currency of survival and ambition, in a place where open competition is dangerous. The social significance of tokens also varies with rank. A high-ranking consort's gift carries authority and expectation. A low-ranking concubine's gift might be ignored or scorned. Understanding this hierarchy of gift-giving is crucial to maintaining your position and avoiding missteps. Tokens are woven into ceremonies and rituals, their meanings layered with tradition and superstition. During festivals or imperial events, specific gifts are exchanged as part of elaborate protocols designed to reinforce loyalty and hierarchy. You memorize these customs knowing that a single misstep can signal disrespect or ignorance. Handling tokens requires a delicate balance of gratitude and caution. You express appreciation without appearing greedy, offer gifts without seeming presumptuous. Every gesture is scrutinized, every reaction noted. The palace watches closely for signs of alliance or dissent in these exchanges. Beyond the material tokens symbolize ownership and control. They remind you that despite your appearance, you are not free. Your body, your time, your very existence are possessions managed by others. This realization deepens the sense of isolation and vulnerability beneath the palace's ornate surface. You find ways to reclaim small bits of agency through tokens, crafting gifts with personal significance, adding secret messages to embroidered scarves or choosing charms that carry protective meanings. These acts become subtle resistances, affirmations of self, within a system designed to suppress individuality. Historians still debate the extent to which tokens influenced palace politics versus serving as cultural rituals. For you, their significance is immediate and personal, a constant reminder of the delicate balance of power, trust, and survival. As you navigate this intricate world, tokens become both shields and weapons. You learn to wield them wisely, understanding that in the palace, even the smallest gesture can shape your fate. And so, surrounded by silk and jade, you carry your tokens like silent prayers, hope and warning intertwined in every delicate thread. The palace air is thick with poison, not just the physical kind, but the venom of whispered rumors and unspoken threats. Beneath the lacquered surfaces and perfumed halls lurks a poisonous court, where danger seeps through every smile and suspicion stains every glance. You quickly learn that survival depends on your ability to detect the subtle toxins, both literal and figurative, that permeate this world. Physical poison has long been a tool of palace intrigue. Tainted tea, spoiled fruit, or cosmetic powders laced with slow-acting herbs are whispered about in the darkest corners. Though direct evidence is scarce, the fear is palpable. Women fall ill unexpectedly, sometimes disappearing from court without explanation. The palace explains these absences as unfortunate fates or illnesses, but the silence around them speaks volumes. You become hyper-aware of everything you consume. Food and drink are tested by trusted attendants, but even this does not guarantee safety. A seemingly innocent cup of tea could be laced with herbs that dull your senses or worse. The palace teaches you to sip cautiously, to savor slowly, and to trust no one implicitly. This wariness extends to cosmetics and perfumes, which might carry hidden dangers. The metaphorical poison is just as deadly. Gossip is a venom that spreads quickly and invisibly. Rumors can ruin reputations, destroy alliances, and end careers. You learn to keep your words measured, to avoid spreading or believing gossip, and to observe the subtle signs of conflict among the women around you. A sudden silence, a cold shoulder, a whispered aside, they all speak of battles being fought beneath the surface. You observe how rivalries play out in the smallest gestures: a turned back, a delayed smile, a withheld compliment. These acts of social poison are as effective as any physical toxin, corroding trust and sowing fear. You become adept at reading these signs, learning to navigate the treacherous social waters with caution and grace. Even the palace eunuchs, usually silent enforcers, can be conduits of poison. Their allegiances shift with the political winds, and their words, sometimes casually dropped, sometimes deliberately whispered, can carry deadly implications. Befriending the right eunuch can protect you. Crossing the wrong one can mean disaster. The Dowager Empress wields her own brand of poison in her favor and displeasure, shaping the court's atmosphere like a fog. Her subtle gestures, a raised eyebrow, a pointed silence, can signal doom or deliverance. You learn to interpret these signs carefully, understanding that her influence is absolute and far-reaching. Poison in the palace is not always a weapon of malice. Sometimes it is a means of control, a way to enforce discipline without open confrontation. Concubines who overstep boundaries may find themselves slowly weakened by mysterious ailments, their health declining under unexplained circumstances. These illnesses serve as warnings to others, reminders that obedience is paramount. You come to understand that in this environment, suspicion is a survival tool. You question the kindness of a smile, the sincerity of a compliment, and the safety of a gift. Trust is a luxury few can afford, and betrayal often comes cloaked in friendship. Despite the danger, you find moments of solidarity. Some women share whispered warnings, secret remedies, or small acts of kindness that break the palace's toxic spell. These connections are fragile but vital, offering glimpses of humanity amid the cruelty. Historians still debate the prevalence and impact of poison in the palace, but for you its presence is undeniable, a constant threat woven into daily life. It shapes behavior, fuels fear, and underscores the brutal reality of living within these walls. Your vigilance becomes second nature. You watch what you eat and drink, interpret every gesture, and guard your words. You learn that in the poisonous court, survival depends not only on outward beauty and grace, but on a keen mind and cautious heart. And so you move through this world of silk and shadows, aware that poison is everywhere, waiting hidden lethal, and that your best defense is constant vigilance and subtle resilience. The eunuchs, those eunuchs who patrol the palace halls with silent authority, hold a power that few realize until they feel its weight. Far from mere servants, they are the gatekeepers and kingmakers of the inner court, wielding influence through control of information, access, and discipline. In this gilded world where every gesture counts, befriending a eunuchs can mean the difference between survival and ruin. You quickly learn that the eunuch's loyalty is to the palace and those who hold power within it, not to you or any of the concubines. Yet their favor can tilt the scales in your favor or turn your life into a waking nightmare. A quiet nod from a trusted eunuch can secure an invitation to a rare gathering or a whispered warning of an impending plot. Conversely, their displeasure can mean ignored summons, delayed meals, or rumors spread in dark corridors. The eunuch's presence is constant but discreet. They move like shadows, observing, listening, remembering. Their eyes miss nothing. The tremor in your voice, the hesitation in your step, the secret smile exchanged between rivals. They report not just your actions, but your demeanor, your alliances, your whispered words. In a palace built on secrets, their knowledge is a potent weapon. You become adept at reading their subtle cues, the briefest flicker of recognition, the barely perceptible change in tone, the way they position themselves in a room. You learn when to approach, when to retreat, and how to offer the right tokens of respect without appearing desperate or insincere. The balance is delicate. Overfamiliarity breeds suspicion, while aloofness invites neglect. Their control extends beyond surveillance. Eunuchs manage the schedules, arrange meetings, and control access to the emperor. They decide who is called forward and who waits in the shadows. Their influence permeates every aspect of palace life, from the distribution of favors to the administration of punishments. You observe how eunuchs can be both protectors and predators. Some become patrons, offering guidance and shelter to those they favor. Others are ruthless enforcers, wielding their power without mercy. You learn to distinguish between the two, aligning yourself carefully while guarding your secrets. The eunuchs' own lives are marked by sacrifice and transformation. Stripped of their manhood and family ties, they are bound to the palace for life. Their detachment from traditional social structures gives them unique authority, but also isolates them in a world of strict hierarchy and constant vigilance. Their loyalty to the palace is pragmatic, rooted in survival and ambition. You hear whispers of eunuchs who rise to positions of immense power, controlling not only access but policy, manipulating imperial decisions from behind the scenes. Their influence is a reminder that the palace's true power often lies not with those who wear crowns or silks, but with those who move unseen. Befriending a eunuch is a calculated risk. You offer favors, small gifts, discreet compliments, careful attentiveness, and receive in return information, protection, or moments of respite. But their alliances are shifting, their loyalties fluid. You never fully know where you stand, and you guard your own intentions with equal care. The palace's complex social ecosystem thrives on these interactions. Eunuchs, consorts, concubines, and officials form an intricate web of power, trust, and betrayal. Understanding your place within this network is essential to survival. Historians still debate the extent of eunuch influence, but their role as power brokers in the imperial court is undeniable. For you, they are a constant presence, a mixture of guardian and threat, friend and foe. You carry this knowledge with you, learning to navigate the eunuch's subtle signals and shifting moods. You respect their authority, appeal to their interests, and avoid their wrath. Your life depends on this delicate balance. And so the eunuchs remain ever watchful shadows, shaping your fate as much as the emperor or the empress. Their silent control is a reminder that in this palace of beauty and brutality, power often lies where it cannot be seen. The Dowager Empress is the palace's unchallenged matriarch, a figure whose shadow stretches across every corridor, every chamber, every whispered conversation. Though she rarely engages directly with most concubines, her presence is felt in every corner, a quiet force that shapes destinies without uttering a word. She is the emperor's mother, the guardian of tradition, and the ultimate arbiter of court politics, a power far greater than her son's fleeting favors. You hear of her before you ever meet her. Stories paint her as both a formidable strategist and a merciless enforcer, a woman whose will bends the court to her desires with nothing more than a glance or a sigh. Her apartments are lavish beyond imagination, draped in silks embroidered with dragons and phoenixes lit by delicate lanterns that cast soft golden hues. Few enter willingly, fewer still leave unmarked by her gaze. The Empress commands an extensive network of spies and informants, maids, eunuchs, consorts, and even visiting nobles who report her every whim and observation. Through this web, she knows who is loyal, who is weak, who is plotting behind closed doors. Her knowledge is a weapon wielded silently but decisively, ensuring that her influence permeates every level of the palace hierarchy. Few concubines ever gain an audience with her, and those who do are often summoned not for kindness but for judgment. A casual insult, a missed curtsy, or a rumor reaching her ears can result in a summons that changes lives overnight. Her displeasure is a cold tide that washes away favor and hope, leaving devastation in its wake. You learn to sense her moods through the reactions of those around you. When the court falls silent, when attendants scurry more quickly, when senior consorts lower their eyes, you know she is near. Her visits are rare, but transformative rooms are perfumed. Servant steps quicken and the air grows heavy with anticipation and fear. Her power extends beyond the palace walls. As the emperor's mother, she influences decisions of state appointments of officials and even diplomatic relations. She is a master of soft power, wielding influence through family ties, marriage alliances, and subtle persuasion. Her role is to maintain the dynasty's continuity, often by enforcing strict discipline within the court. You observe how her favor shapes the lives of concubines. Those she blesses receive rare privileges, better quarters, access to the emperor's ear, and protection from rivals. Those who fall into her disfavor face exclusion, demotion, or worse. Her opinions are absolute and her judgments swift. The empress embodies the palace's dual nature, beauty and brutality intertwined. She upholds tradition and order, but her methods are often ruthless. She is both protector and executioner, a symbol of stability and a source of fear. You find yourself imagining her presence in the grand halls, her voice never raised, yet commanding obedience. Her power is a reminder that the emperor, for all his authority, is not the sole ruler. Behind the throne stands a woman whose influence shapes the empire's fate as much as any edict or army. Historians still argue about the empress's role, whether she was a benevolent guardian of her son or a cunning manipulator wielding power behind the scenes. For you, she is an omnipresent force, a ruler without throne whose will is law within these walls. Living under her gaze means constant vigilance. You watch your words temper your actions and strive to avoid even accidental offense. Your survival depends on reading the subtle signals of her favor and navigating the shifting tides of her influence. And so the Dowager Empress remains the silent heartbeat of the palace, an ever-present force whose shadow both protects and threatens, whose power is as delicate as the silk that drapes her, and as sharp as the dragon embroidered upon it. The slow fade from grace is one of the palace's cruelest punishments, an invisible unraveling that strips away your dignity, status, and hope without a word of explanation. It begins subtly, almost imperceptibly, a change in the tone of a servant's greeting, a shift in the color or quality of your robes, an absence of invitations to court ceremonies that were once routine. You sense it before you see it, a quiet slipping away from the center of power toward the shadowed edges of the court. At first you tell yourself it's temporary, a bad day, a misunderstanding, a passing slight, but days stretch into weeks and the distance grows. Your quarters are moved farther from the emperor's chambers to a dim wing where the lanterns flicker weakly, and the sounds of laughter and music feel like echoes from another world. The silk cushions are replaced with straw mats. Warm meals turn cold and sparse. The social isolation is perhaps the most painful aspect of this decline. You become invisible not only to the emperor but to the women who once nodded politely in your direction. The senior concubines who once glanced your way now avoid your gaze altogether. The maids who attended you with a measure of warmth grow indifferent or even hostile. You are left to navigate a shrinking world alone. Despite this, you maintain your composure. Pride or perhaps desperation demands it. You perfect the art of appearing serene, even as your heart breaks. You smile when necessary, bow when required, and speak only when spoken to. The palace rewards silence and punishes vulnerability with unrelenting harshness. Your days are filled with routine tasks that once seemed beneath you, folding linens, tending to the gardens, or assisting in kitchens. These duties are reminders of your fall from favor, symbolic gestures meant to humble and control. You perform them dutifully, aware that resistance would only hasten your descent. You hear whispers of others who have endured this fate, women who faded quietly until they disappeared from palace records altogether. Some are sent to secluded monasteries, others confined to distant estates under strict watch. Their names vanish from official histories, their stories erased by time and silence. Yet even in this fading, there is a strange dignity. You become a witness to the palace's cycles of power and loss, a testament to survival amid relentless control. Your resilience becomes a quiet rebellion, a refusal to vanish completely. You observe the rise and fall of others from the margins, newcomers who sparkle briefly before fading rivals who claw their way up only to be cast down. The palace is a revolving door of favor and disgrace, a never-ending cycle of hope and despair. Historians still debate the psychological toll of this slow fade. Some see it as a necessary mechanism to maintain order, others as a tragic erosion of humanity. For you, it is a lived reality, a painful reminder that status here is fleeting and conditional. Despite everything, you hold on to memories of better days, the brief moments of warmth, the rare smiles from the emperor, the friendships formed and lost. These recollections are bittersweet anchors in a sea of uncertainty. As you lie awake at night, listening to the distant sounds of the palace, you wonder what comes next. Is there an end to this fading? Or is it a slow surrender to invisibility, a quiet death within the living? You remind yourself that survival, even in obscurity, is a victory. To endure the palace's cruelty without losing your sense of self is a testament to strength beyond beauty or favor. And so the slow fade continues, a silent unraveling that shapes the lives of countless women hidden behind the palace's gleaming walls and perfumed curtains. Life among the forgotten blooms is a world apart from the gilded halls where your journey began. Here in the quieter wings of the palace, or the secluded courtyards rarely visited by the emperor or his court, you live in the soft shadows of obscurity. The grandeur fades, silk gives way to simpler fabrics, and the chatter of power is replaced by silence heavy with resignation. This is the place where many concubines spend their twilight days, far from the flickering candlelight of favor, their names whispered only in passing. Your quarters here are smaller, less ornate, a modest chamber with worn wooden floors and papered walls faded by time. The scent of sandalwood lingers faintly, but the air lacks the vibrant fragrances that once greeted you. A single window looks out onto a garden where chrysanthemums bloom stubbornly, their petals a quiet defiance against neglect. It is a world where time seems to slow, stretching each day into a soft, indistinct blur. In this liminal space, the company is sparse. Other women share your fate, former favorites, forgotten rivals, those who have lost their place in the ever-turning wheel of palace politics. There is an unspoken understanding among you, a silent camaraderie forged in shared exile. You exchange soft smiles, knowing that here you are no longer threats but survivors. Days are marked by routine and reflection. Without the constant demands of court life, you find moments to tend to yourself in ways previously impossible. You spend hours embroidering delicate patterns onto scraps of cloth, each stitch a meditation, each thread a tether to your fading identity. You read the few treasured scrolls aloud, losing yourself in poetry and history worlds far beyond the palace walls. Yet even here the palace's reach lingers. Attendants bring news from the court, whispers of new favorites, shifting alliances, and the emperor's latest edicts. Sometimes you receive letters carefully worded and scarce from family or distant friends. These are lifelines to a world that feels increasingly distant. Despite the isolation, you cling to hope in small ways. You cultivate a tiny garden on your windowsill, nurturing herbs and flowers that remind you of home. The simple act of caring for these fragile plants becomes a symbol of resilience, a quiet rebellion against the erasure of your presence. You reflect on the impermanence of favor and the fleeting nature of beauty. The palace, for all its splendor, is a place where women are cherished and discarded like blooms in a vase, admired, briefly then left to wilt. Yet you understand that your worth transcends these transient glories. Your survival, your memories, your quiet strength are legacies no palace intrigue can erase. Visitors are rare but welcome, a trusted maid bearing a warm bowl of soup, a fellow exile sharing a whispered story of courage, a eunuch delivering a rare token of kindness. These interactions, brief and understated, become sources of comfort in a life otherwise marked by absence. You find solace in ritual lighting incense at dawn, reciting poetry as the sun sets, writing secret letters never sent. These acts anchor you, preserving fragments of self amid a world determined to consume your identity. The palace's history is written in grand events and royal decrees, but your story, like those of countless other forgotten blooms, exists in the margins and the quiet endurance of women who lived, loved, and lost behind closed doors. Historians still debate the significance of this exile, whether it was a mercy or a punishment, a chance for reflection or a sentence of oblivion. For you, it is both sanctuary and prison, a place where time softens wounds but deepens solitude. As days turn into months, you learn to embrace the gentle rhythms of this life, finding peace and acceptance, even as the palace outside continues its relentless dance of power and favor. And so among the forgotten blooms, you exist not as a fading shadow, but as a quiet testament to endurance, grace, and the unyielding human spirit. The illusion of escape is a cruel mirage in the palace, a distant dream that glimmers just beyond reach, offering brief moments of hope before dissolving into the harsh reality of confinement. You catch yourself imagining freedom, walking through open fields, breathing fresh air untainted by incense, laughing without fear of judgment. But these thoughts are fleeting, quickly replaced by the knowledge that the palace walls are not merely physical barriers. They are constructs of power, tradition, and control, designed to keep you contained. From the moment you entered, the gates closed behind you, not only in stone and wood, but in a web of obligation, surveillance, and social bonds that bind tightly. The courtyards, no matter how expansive, are a gilded cage, and the carefully maintained gardens serve as beautiful distractions rather than pathways to liberty. The more you try to imagine a way out, the clearer it becomes that the palace is a world unto itself, sealed, self-sustaining, and impermeable. Attempts at escape are whispered about in hushed tones among the servants, and maids' tales of desperate women who tried and failed, of rumors that reach the outer city walls, only to be dismissed or buried. The punishment for such attempts is severe, swift, and merciless vanishing, without a trace, public disgrace, or exile to distant provinces under watchful guards. These stories serve as warnings, their silence louder than any spoken threat. You understand that escape is not simply a physical act, but a challenge to the entire imperial order. To flee the palace is to reject the emperor's authority, the empress's mandate, and the court's intricate balance. The consequences ripple beyond the individual, affecting families' alliances and the delicate fabric of power. Yet even within these constraints, your mind searches for cracks in the walls. You watch for moments when gates open, when guards relax, when schedules shift, tiny opportunities where hope might flicker. You listen for news of external events, rebellions, natural disasters, or political upheavals that might distract or weaken the palace's grip. These moments are precious and rare, fueling fantasies of freedom that sustain you through the endless days of waiting and performance. You imagine slipping through hidden passages, joining caravans bound for distant provinces, or blending into crowds beyond the city gates. But these visions remain dreams as elusive as the emperor's fleeting glance. You find solace in small acts of rebellion, carving secret marks on the underside of your wooden chest, memorizing poems about far-off lands, or speaking in code with trusted companions. These gestures preserve your identity and defy the palace's attempt to erase individuality. The palace's design itself enforces your captivity. The layout is labyrinthine with twisting corridors, hidden passages, and guarded gates that confuse and deter. The eunuch's constant patrols and the presence of loyal soldiers ensure that every exit is watched. Even when you walk in the gardens, the paths loop back, preventing accidental discovery of an escape route. Social bonds, too, act as invisible chains. Your family's reputation and safety depend on your compliance. The attempts to flee could bring retribution upon those you love. The palace's reach extends beyond its walls, a reminder that escape is not just personal but political. You recognize the psychological weight of this confinement, the slow erosion of hope, the tension between longing and resignation. You learn to balance acceptance with quiet resistance, finding ways to keep your spirit alive even as your body remains trapped. Historians debate whether concubines viewed the palace as a prison or a sanctuary. For many, it was both a place of safety from external dangers, yet a site of internal control. Your experience embodies this paradox, a complex web of protection and captivity. Despite the barriers, you nurture hope in your heart. You cherish stories of women who found freedom through marriage, childbirth, or favor. You dream of a future beyond these walls, even as you know that the palace's grip is strong and unyielding. And so you live with the illusion of escape, a bittersweet reminder of the life that might have been, and the resilience required to endure the life that is. Pregnancy is a paradoxical blessing and burden within the palace walls. For a concubine, it carries the promise of elevation, but also the peril of scrutiny. The moment you realize you are with child, your life shifts into a new orbit, one marked by heightened surveillance, altered routines, and an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. The palace physicians take over, their presence constant and clinical. They check your pulse, monitor your diet, and prescribe herbal remedies meant to protect you and the unborn child. Their touch is both comforting and invasive, a reminder that your body is no longer entirely your own. Every symptom is noted, every complaint assessed not with empathy, but as data points in a careful calculation of health and political worth. Your quarters change to a special suite, softer and warmer, designed for rest and recovery. Attendants replace your usual maids, chosen for their discretion and loyalty to the court. Yet despite the comfort, a heavy tension pervades your days, an awareness that Any misstep could bring dire consequences not only for you but for your child. The palace's attention to your pregnancy is not solely maternal concern. It is deeply political. A son is a potential heir, a power broker in the intricate game of imperial succession. His birth could shift alliances, ignite rivalries, and alter the balance of favor. For this reason, your every move is watch your health, closely guarded but also manipulated. You are advised to avoid stress and excitement, to keep your emotions in check. Yet the emotional turmoil beneath the surface is immense. You grapple with hope and fear, joy and isolation, knowing that the child growing within you carries both promise and risk. The Dowager Empress's influence extends here as well. She takes a keen interest in your pregnancy, often sending gifts or envoys to check on your condition. Her approval or disapproval can affect your treatment, your status, and the future of your child. You learn to navigate this relationship with utmost care, balancing gratitude with caution. Medical practices in the palace blend traditional remedies with court-approved rituals. You participate in ceremonies designed to protect your child from harm offerings to ancestral spirits, incantations performed by court shamans, and the use of talismans placed under your pillow. These rituals, while comforting, underscore the precariousness of your situation. Your diet becomes both a privilege and a limitation. Special foods are prepared rice porridge with ginseng soups infused with medicinal herbs, steamed fish for protein. Yet restrictions abound. Certain foods are forbidden, believed to bring harm or bad luck. You eat carefully, knowing that every bite affects not only your health, but your standing. Social interactions shift dramatically. Other concubines avoid you, wary of the potential fallout from being seen as rivals or distractions. Friends become scarce as your pregnancy isolates you physically and emotionally. The loneliness deepens even as your status nominally improves. You begin to prepare for childbirth with a mix of dread and determination. The palace organizes the event, meticulously assembling midwives, eunuchs, and officials to oversee every aspect. You are reminded constantly of the importance of this moment, not just for you, but for the empire. Pain and fear are to be endured quietly. There is no room for complaints or displays of weakness. You learn to channel your strength into silence, knowing that your composure is as crucial as your health. After birth, the rituals continue. The child is presented to the court, celebrated or mourned, in ceremonies that emphasize lineage and legitimacy. Sons are heralded as potential heirs. Daughters receive more subdued acknowledgments. However, the separation between mother and child often comes swiftly. Infants are taken to be raised by wet nurses and tutors removed from the immediate care of their birth mothers. This practice protects the child but deepens your sense of loss and detachment. Whispers circulate about the fates of concubines who lose their children or suffer complications. Some disappear from court records without explanation, their stories lost to history. These tales instill fear and reinforce the palace's harsh realities. Yet amid these challenges, pregnancy offers moments of profound hope. The possibility of leaving a legacy, of securing a place in the palace's history, fuels your endurance. You hold on to these moments as anchors amid the uncertainties. Historians still debate the extent to which pregnancy influenced concubines' power and survival. For you, it is a pivotal experience, both a chance at elevation and a test of resilience. As you move through this chapter of your life, you carry the weight of expectations, the hope for the future, and the quiet strength required to endure. Surveillance of the expectant mother tightens around you like a second skin, suffocating yet protective, a paradox that defines life within these walls. The palace becomes a hive of eyes and ears, a place where every breath, every movement, every whispered word is noted, recorded, and weighed. Your body, once your own, is now under constant observation, an imperial asset to be monitored with clinical precision. Physicians and attendants shadow your every step. Their hands are steady but impersonal, their questions probing yet detached. They examine your pulse watch for signs of fatigue or distress and measure the slightest changes in your condition. Their reports flow like ink into the Emperor's files, turning your pregnancy into a dossier of data points, a ledger of potential and risk. Your attendants, chosen for their discretion, carry out their duties with practiced efficiency. They prepare your meals, administer prescribed remedies, and tend to your comfort, but always with an eye toward protocol. Their presence is both a comfort and a reminder of your captivity, a constant balance between care and control. The palace corridors seem to narrow the air, thickening with anticipation and tension. Visitors, midwives, herbalists, eunuchs arrive with regularity, their faces masks of professionalism that conceal whispered gossip and unspoken judgments. You learn to endure their presence, knowing that their watchfulness is a measure of your value and vulnerability. Your movements become restricted. You walk only in designated areas, accompanied by attendants who ensure your safety and obedience. The garden walks you once enjoyed now feel like guided tours through a gilded cage. Even your rest is regulated with prescribed times for sleep and quiet reflection. Conversations become rare and carefully curated. You speak only when necessary, your words weighed for tone and content. Other concubines keep their distance, wary of the implications of association with the expectant mother. The loneliness deepens, a silent companion to your physical changes. The Dowager Empress's interest in your condition intensifies. Through intermediaries, she sends gifts, silk robes embroidered with protective symbols, delicate fans scented with calming herbs, and messages of encouragement laced with subtle warnings. Her favor is a fragile shield offering protection, but demanding unwavering obedience. You participate in rituals meant to safeguard your child and ensure a safe delivery. Offerings to ancestral spirits, incense ceremonies, and prayers fill your days, blending tradition with superstition. These acts provide solace and structure, anchoring you amid uncertainty. Despite the constant scrutiny, you find moments of quiet resistance. You memorize poetry, recite prayers softly, and treasure small personal items, a jade pendant from your mother, a silk ribbon gifted by a kind attendant. These tokens of identity become lifelines, affirming your humanity amid the palace's mechanized control. You become acutely aware of the palace's dual nature, a place of beauty and terror, care and control, hope and despair. Your pregnancy embodies this tension, a testament to both the palace's power and your resilience. Historians still debate the psychological and physical impact of this surveillance on concubines. For you, it is a lived reality, a relentless balancing act between vulnerability and strength, visibility and invisibility. As you move through this phase, you carry with you the weight of expectations, the gaze of power, and the quiet determination to endure. The palace watches, but you survive. Birth and its aftermath are ceremonies of immense gravity, woven with layers of ritual expectation and political significance that stretch far beyond the simple act of bringing life into the world. In the palace, childbirth is less a personal milestone and more a public event, scrutinized and staged as a display of imperial strength and continuity. The day of your delivery is preceded by meticulous preparations. Your quarters are adorned with auspicious symbols, red paper cutouts, candles flickering softly, and delicate silk banners embroidered with dragons and phoenixes. These emblems are believed to ward off evil spirits and invite blessings upon mother and child alike. The palace astrologers consult lunar charts and celestial signs, determining the most auspicious moments for labor and birth. Midwives and physicians assemble early, their faces solemn and hands steady. They bring herbal remedies, specialized birthing stools, and ritual implements designed to ease labor and protect against harm. The eunuchs assigned to the birth chamber maintain a strict order ensuring the privacy and sanctity of the event, while remaining vigilant for any signs of distress or intrigue. You are expected to endure the pain with grace and dignity. Sobbing or shouting is discouraged, seen as a loss of control unbecoming of a woman of the court. Instead, you learn to breathe deeply, to focus inward, and to maintain composure, even as your body writhes with the intensity of labor. The room hums with quiet incantations, prayers whispered softly to ancestors and deities invoking protection and fortune. As the child emerges, a hush falls over the attendants. The moment is both sacred and political, a new life that carries the weight of imperial expectations. A son is hailed as a future heir, a daughter celebrated but with quieter fanfare. The child is swiftly cleansed, swaddled in silks, and presented to the attending officials. Your role as mother shifts immediately. While joy and relief may fill your heart, you are reminded that this is but a step in a larger ritual. The child is subject to examinations by court physicians, its health and vitality documented meticulously. These assessments influence your status and the court's perception of your worth. The palace's focus on the child often means your own needs become secondary. You are attended carefully but with clinical efficiency, your recovery monitored closely yet without tenderness. Your days become a blend of rest ritual and cautious observation as the palace decides how best to manage this new symbol of power. Motherhood within these walls is complex. The child you have born is quickly separated from you, placed in the care of wet nurses and tutors, who prepare him or her for the demands of imperial life. This separation is both protective and painful, a reminder that your role is as much about producing heirs as it is about nurturing them. You experience a bittersweet mix of pride and loss, love and detachment. Your child becomes a beacon of hope, but also a source of anxiety. Political rivalries intensify around heirs, and the safety of your child is never guaranteed. Stories circulate about concubines whose children prosper and rise, as well as those whose offspring disappear mysteriously or are swept away in palace intrigues. These narratives underscore the precariousness of your position and the fragile nature of imperial favor. The palace celebrates childbirth with ceremonies that reinforce hierarchy and loyalty. Gifts are exchanged, proclamations made, and rituals performed to honor ancestors and ensure the dynasty's continuity. Your place in these events is both honored and constrained, a public figure in a private drama. Historians still debate how much agency concubines had in these moments, and how deeply maternal bonds influenced palace politics. For you, the experience is deeply personal, a mix of hope, duty, and survival amid the grandeur and cruelty of imperial life. As you recover, you hold on to the quiet moments, touching your child's tiny hand, whispering lullabies, dreaming of a future beyond these walls. These memories become your sanctuary, a source of strength in a world that demands both sacrifice and resilience. And so birth is not just an act of creation, but a profound rite of passage, a chapter that reshapes your life, redefines your status, and reaffirms your place within the palace's intricate tapestry. The political weight of sons within the palace is immense, so heavy it crushes dreams and reshapes destinies. Bearing a son can elevate a concubine from obscurity to influence, transforming her into a vital player in the imperial game. But this elevation comes with its own hazards, a delicate balancing act between power and peril, where every gesture, every word can shift alliances and trigger rivalries. From the moment the emperor's son is born, he is more than a child. He is a symbol of continuity, a beacon of hope for the dynasty's future. His existence ripples through the palace, rearranging the intricate web of favors and alliances. The concubine who bore him gains a new status, becoming not just a bearer of beauty, but a mother of potential power. The court watches her closely, measuring her influence and loyalty. Yet motherhood in the palace is a complex and often painful role. Sons are taken from their birth mothers, early entrusted to wet nurses and tutors who raise them within strict confines. The bond is severed by necessity, an act of protection and control. You are left to watch from a distance as your child is groomed for greatness, your presence reduced to whispered memories and silent prayers. This separation breeds a unique kind of loneliness. The joy of childbirth is tempered by the loss of intimacy and the constant worry over your son's safety and future. The court's intrigues do not spare children. Their lives are enmeshed in political struggles, vulnerable to the machinations of rivals and factions. Rival concubines and consorts see your son as a threat or an opportunity. Alliances form around heirs, with factions vying to secure their positions through influence over the child's upbringing. You become both protector and pawn, navigating these turbulent waters with caution and strategy. The emperor's favor is fickle. A son's prominence can wax and wane with the shifting tides of court politics. You witness how power dynamics evolve as sons grow their futures, shaped by health education and the shifting preferences of those in power. You also observe the harsh realities faced by children who do not survive or who fall out of favor. Whispers of hidden illnesses, secret disappearances, and political executions circulate, casting a shadow over the palace's opulence. These stories are reminders of the fragile nature of life and power within the imperial court. Your role as mother is both revered and restricted. You participate in ceremonies that honor your son's birth and status, yet your influence is carefully limited. The palace dictates the terms of your involvement, balancing maternal affection with political necessity. Despite these constraints, you find moments of quiet pride. You witness your son's early steps, hear his first words, and imagine the man he might become. These memories become your sanctuary, a source of strength amid the palace's relentless demands. Historians still debate how much influence mothers wielded over their sons' destinies. Some argue that maternal bonds shaped policy and succession. Others see concubines as sidelined figures, their power symbolic rather than real. For you, the experience is deeply personal, a blend of hope, sacrifice, and survival. As your son grows under the palace's watchful eyes, you prepare for the challenges ahead. The path is fraught with uncertainty, but your love and resilience fuel your determination to protect him and secure his future. And so the political weight of sons shapes your life in profound ways, intertwining maternal devotion with the complex dance of power, loyalty, and survival within the imperial palace. Whispers of disappearance haunt the palace corridors, unspoken, yet pervasive stories of concubines who vanished as mysteriously as mist at dawn. These tales are a chilling undercurrent beneath the palace's glossy veneer, a reminder that beneath the silks and jewels lies a system that consumes without question or remorse. You learn quickly that disappearance here is a fate worse than exile or demotion. It is erasure, a void where voices are silenced and histories forgotten. No official record marks these vanishing acts. No scrolls announce the fall of a favored concubine or the sudden absence of a once prominent figure. Instead, you notice the subtle signs: the empty chamber down the hall, the sudden hush when a name is mentioned, the whispered condolences disguised as casual remarks. Friends stop visiting, maids are reassigned, and the woman's belongings are quietly packed away. It is a disappearance cloaked in silence. Rumors swirl about the causes of these disappearances. Some speak of palace intrigue, poison, or punishment for transgressions, both real and imagined. Others suggest more insidious political motives, rivals seeking to eliminate threats, factions consolidating power, or the emperor's displeasure manifested in quiet but irreversible acts. These stories fuel your unease, underscoring the precariousness of your position. You observe the palace's mechanisms for control, how fear is maintained, not through overt violence, but through these acts of quiet elimination. The uncertainty of fate hangs over every woman, a constant reminder to tread carefully, to remain compliant, and to avoid drawing attention. The threat of vanishing serves as an invisible leash, guiding behavior without need for overt command. These disappearances also erode trust. Friendships are tentative, alliances fragile. The knowledge that a confidant could vanish overnight sows suspicion and isolation. You guard your words and actions, more closely wary of who listens and what is reported. In this environment, silence becomes both protection and prison. Despite the fear, you witness acts of courage and resilience. Women form covert bonds, sharing information, supporting each other in small but meaningful ways. These networks, though risky, offer moments of solidarity and hope. They are lifelines in a world where loneliness and betrayal lurk at every turn. You reflect on the historical records, what they omit, and what they reveal. The grand narratives celebrate emperors and empresses, victories and ceremonies, but the lives of countless concubines are lost to time, their stories erased by deliberate silence or neglect. You realize that your own story is part of this hidden history, a testament to resilience amid erasure. The palace's power to make women disappear extends beyond physical presence. It affects memory and legacy, shaping how history remembers or forgets its subjects. You wonder how many lives have been consumed in the name of imperial order, how many voices silenced before their stories could be told. Historians debate the extent and nature of these disappearances, some viewing them as administrative necessity, others as instruments of terror. For you, they are a lived reality, a specter haunting every corridor, every chamber. As you navigate the palace's treacherous landscape, you carry the weight of these vanished women with you. Their absence is a warning and a call to resilience, a reminder that survival requires constant vigilance and cautious grace. And so the whispers of disappearance linger a shadow over the palace's splendor, shaping lives in silence and secrecy. Endurance becomes your most vital skill, a quiet form of resistance woven into the very fabric of your daily existence. In a world designed to break spirits and erase individuality, your ability to persist, to carry on without breaking, is a subtle but profound rebellion. The palace tests you relentlessly, but survival requires more than obedience. It demands resilience forged in silence and patience. Days stretch into months and months into years, each marked by a repetitive rhythm of rituals, inspections, and performances. You wake before dawn, your movements choreographed to perfection. You bow when required, speak only when spoken to, and smile with measured grace. Yet beneath this practiced exterior, your mind remains alert, observing, calculating, adapting. Physical hardships, rigid posture lessons. Harsh living conditions, relentless scrutiny become familiar adversaries. You learn to endure aches and pains without complaint, to mask fatigue with a serene expression. Emotional trials are even more taxing. The isolation, the betrayal, the constant uncertainty. But endurance is more than mere survival. It is the act of maintaining your essence despite everything. You develop coping mechanisms, small rituals that sustain your spirit. A hidden bookmark in a forbidden scroll, a whispered prayer before sleep, a secret stitch in your embroidery that tells your story in code. These acts, though seemingly insignificant, become your anchors, preserving a sense of self amid the palace's dehumanizing machinery. Your relationships, too, are tempered by endurance. Friendships are scarce and fragile, built on mutual understanding and shared experience, but constantly threatened by suspicion and rivalry. You learn to give trust sparingly and to accept loneliness as a constant companion. Yet even in solitude you find strength. Observing others' struggles deepens your resolve. You witness women who break under pressure, succumbing to despair, illness, or the palace's punitive measures. Their stories serve as cautionary tales and silent motivators, reminders of the stakes and the necessity of perseverance. The palace's culture of endurance extends to its rituals and ceremonies. Every bow, every recitation, every smile is a performance of strength, masked as submission. The women who master this art are those who navigate the court's treacheries with the greatest success. Historians still debate the psychological impact of this endurance, with some viewing it as a form of survival strategy, others as a source of profound trauma. For you, it is a lived reality, a balance of vulnerability and fortitude, fragility and strength. Endurance also becomes a silent language among the women, a shared understanding that transcends words. You recognize it in a steady gaze, a gentle touch, a shared glance during a tense moment. These connections, though subtle, offer comfort and solidarity. Despite the palace's efforts to strip away individuality, your endurance preserves your identity. It is a quiet assertion of existence, a refusal to be consumed entirely by the system. You survive not just through obedience, but through resilience, creativity, and hope. As you move through the palace's challenges, you carry this endurance as both shield and sword, a means to protect yourself and to persist. It is a testament to the human spirit's capacity to withstand even the harshest conditions. And so, in the face of relentless control and uncertainty, your endurance becomes a quiet act of defiance, a beacon of strength within the palace's shadowed halls. In this palace, small acts of kindness, though rare and often fleeting, become precious lifelines. The walls and rituals are designed to isolate, but occasionally moments of genuine compassion pierce the cold exterior, reminding you of the humanity that persists beneath the layers of silk and protocol. You learn to recognize these moments, cherish them, and hold them close. A shared glance between you and another concubine when the senior consorts are absent carries volumes of unspoken solidarity. A maid who quietly brings an extra bowl of rice or brushes a stray lock of hair from your face offers comfort that transcends the strict rules. These gestures are fragile acts of rebellion against the system that seeks to keep you apart. You discover that kindness often comes from unexpected sources, sometimes from eunuchs whose loyalty extends beyond duty, sometimes from fellow women who, despite rivalry, understand the isolation and dangers you face. These connections form a fragile web of support, sustaining you in moments of loneliness. Yet kindness is complicated here. It is frequently tinged with caution, suspicion, or expectation. You give and receive it, carefully aware that misinterpretation can lead to gossip or punishment. Trust is scarce, and every gesture is weighed against the backdrop of palace politics. You also learn that kindness can be a tool of manipulation. Favoritism disguised as generosity, sympathy, wielded as a weapon, and gifts offered with strings attached all blur the lines between genuine care and strategic alliance. Navigating these complexities requires discernment and emotional intelligence. In moments of genuine kindness, you glimpse a different world, a place where women support rather than compete, where empathy replaces calculation. These moments are brief but profound, fueling your resilience and reminding you that beneath the palace's cruelty lies enduring humanity. You carry these memories as treasures, recalling them in the darkest hours. They become stories you whisper to yourself, affirmations of hope and connection in a world designed to isolate. Historians debate the nature of relationships among concubines, whether rivalry overshadowed all, or whether genuine bonds formed despite the circumstances. Your experience suggests a nuanced reality where competition and compassion coexist in delicate balance. Acts of kindness, no matter how small, become acts of resistance. They affirm your identity and your right to dignity in a system intent on erasure. They remind you that survival is not only about endurance but about connection. As you navigate the palace's treacheries, these moments sustain you. They offer glimpses of light in the shadows, proof that kindness can exist even where it is least expected. And so you hold on to these fragile threads, weaving them into the tapestry of your life, a quiet testament to humanity's capacity for compassion amid adversity. The palace is a living theater, and you, its reluctant actress, perform roles scripted by others yet rehearsed tirelessly to perfection. Behind every smile lies calculation. Beneath every bow, careful restraint. You become a master of this silent drama where subtlety and grace dictate survival. Every interaction is a scene, every gesture a line in a script that demands flawless delivery. The elaborate ceremonies and rituals serve as the stage upon which these dramas unfold. Imperial festivals, religious observances, and seasonal celebrations are spectacles of power and tradition choreographed with precision. You participate not out of choice but obligation, knowing that your performance affects not only your standing, but the entire court's delicate balance. Dressing for these occasions is itself a ritual. The weight of embroidered silk, the intricate coiffures adorned with jewels and pins, the painted faces all transform you into an emblem of imperial beauty and grace. Yet beneath the finery, you feel the burden of expectation, the pressure to embody perfection, even as your spirit strains. The audience is vast and discerning. Nobles, officials, eunuchs, and fellow concubines watch intently, reading your every movement for signs of favor or fault. A misstep, a faltering smile, a trembling hand can invite whispers and judgments that echo long after the event ends. You learn to cultivate a persona that commands respect without threatening those above you. Your expressions become measured, your speech polished, your presence controlled. This performance extends beyond ceremonies to everyday life, where even mundane interactions carry weight. Behind the scenes, the drama intensifies. Alliances form and fracture, loyalties shift, and rivalries simmer beneath polite smiles. The court is a web of intrigue where information is currency and secrecy a shield. You navigate this world with caution, balancing ambition with prudence. Yet amidst this artifice, moments of authenticity emerge. Shared laughter over private jokes, whispered confidences in the quiet hours. The fleeting warmth of genuine friendship, these instances provide respite from the relentless performance. You reflect on the paradox of your existence at once object and subject, performer and prisoner. The palace demands your beauty and obedience, but denies you freedom and agency. Your role is both exalted and constrained, celebrated and controlled. Historians debate whether concubines were mere pawns or subtle players in court politics. Your experience reveals a complex reality where survival required both mastery of performance and assertion of self. This living theater shapes your identity, teaching you resilience, adaptability, and the power of silence. You become an artist of endurance, crafting meaning and agency within imposed roles. And so you continue the performance, navigating the palace's grand stage with grace and determination, knowing that in this theater of shadows, every act is a choice between survival and surrender. Despite the strict confines and calculated performances, moments of genuine laughter and lightness sometimes break through the palace's heavy atmosphere. These rare interludes, fleeting and fragile, remind you that beneath the layers of silk powder and protocol, you are still human, capable of joy, camaraderie, and even hope. These moments often occur in the quietest of places, the secluded gardens, where you and a handful of other concubines steal brief respites from the watchful eyes of the court. There, beneath blossoming trees and beside shimmering koi ponds, laughter bubbles up unexpectedly. It is the laughter of shared stories, whispered jokes, and the simple relief of being seen not as ornaments or pawns, but as women. You cherish these encounters, knowing their rarity. They are acts of rebellion against the palace's rigid hierarchy, small rebellions that strengthen your spirit. In these times, you speak freely without fear of reprimand or betrayal. You share memories from homes left behind, dreams for futures that seem distant, and the secret hopes that keep you going. These connections offer a vital sense of belonging, a counterbalance to the isolation imposed by palace life. You find comfort in solidarity, understanding that while rivalry is unavoidable, kindness and friendship endure in hidden corners. Yet even in these moments of joy, the palace's weight never fully lifts. The knowledge that these gatherings must remain secret tempers your laughter. You remain alert, ears attuned for approaching footsteps or the rustle of skirts, signaling an overseer's arrival. The joy is tempered by caution, a reminder of the ever-present danger lurking in shadows. You also recognize that these bonds, while precious, are delicate. Trust is earned slowly and can be shattered with a single betrayal. You guard your heart carefully, balancing openness with self-protection. These rare moments of levity are reminders of your resilience, a testament that even in the harshest conditions, the human spirit seeks connection and light. They fuel your endurance, providing emotional sustenance that sustains you through the long days and nights. Historians often overlook these personal dimensions, focusing instead on power and politics. But for you, they are the threads that weave meaning and humanity into an otherwise rigid existence. You carry these memories with you, storing them as precious treasures. They are whispers of freedom, laughter caught in silk folds, and the enduring spark of hope that illuminates the palace's darkest corridors. And so, amidst the relentless demands and silent battles, you find moments to laugh, to connect, and to remind yourself that you are more than your role, a woman with dreams, fears, and the capacity for joy. In the palace's labyrinth of power, knowledge is one of the rarest and most valuable currencies. The more you learn about alliances, rivalries, secrets, the more you can navigate the treacherous waters that define your existence. Information flows through whispers, stolen glances, and coded messages, weaving a web that entangles friend and foe alike. You become a careful collector of these fragments, piecing together a mosaic that guides your every step. The eunuchs, consorts, and maids all play roles in this intricate network. Some are willing informants trading secrets for favors or protection. Others hoard knowledge, jealously using it as leverage in their own silent battles. You learn to read intentions beneath words, to discern truth from deception, and to communicate without exposing your vulnerabilities. Court ceremonies and gatherings are fertile grounds for gathering intelligence. Between delicate sips of tea and polite exchanges, subtle hints are dropped, alliances tested, and intentions revealed. You listen carefully, storing away these pieces for when they might be needed. A phrase spoken in passing, a glance exchanged across the room, a subtle shift in tone, all can signal shifts in power or impending threats. You develop an internal code deciphering the palace's complex language of gestures and silences. You understand that what is left unsaid often carries more weight than spoken words. You observe how favor ebbs and flows, how alliances rise and fall, and how your own position might shift with the tide. But knowledge is double-edged. Possessing too much can mark you as a threat. Revealing too little can leave you vulnerable. You balance disclosure and discretion, sharing just enough to build alliances while protecting your secrets. The palace's politics extend beyond the inner court to imperial officials and external powers. You hear rumors of negotiations, rebellions, and imperial edicts that ripple through the corridors. Understanding these broader forces helps you contextualize the palace's intrigues and anticipate changes. You also recognize the limits of your influence. Despite your growing awareness, many decisions are made beyond your reach by the emperor, the empress, or powerful eunuchs. Your role is often reactive, adapting to shifts rather than shaping them. Yet armed with knowledge, you find moments of agency. You use information to protect yourself, to support allies, and to avoid pitfalls. You craft subtle strategies, weaving your way through the court's labyrinth with cautious confidence. Historians debate the extent of Concubine's political influence. Some argue they were mere pawns. Others see them as skilled players in a complex game. Your experience reveals a nuanced reality, a blend of constraint and cunning. As you gather and wield knowledge, you affirm your place within the palace's intricate power dynamics. Your survival depends not only on obedience, but on intelligence, perception, and adaptability. And so you move through this world of silk and shadows, guided by the quiet power of knowledge, a beacon that lights your path through the palace's enduring mysteries. As the seasons turn and years pass, you come to understand that life in the palace is a series of cycles of favor and neglect, hope and despair, visibility and invisibility. The rhythms of court life are as predictable as the waxing and waning of the moon, yet each cycle carries its own uncertainties and challenges. Survival depends on your ability to navigate these tides with patience and grace. The passage of time brings changes. New concubines arrive, alliances shift, and the emperor's attention moves like a fickle breeze. You watch as some women rise swiftly, their beauty and wit catching the eye of powerful patrons. Others fade gradually, their names whispered, less often their presence shrinking until they become ghosts in the palace halls. You learn to anticipate these shifts, adjusting your behavior and alliances accordingly. Patience becomes a virtue and endurance your greatest weapon. You understand that fortune is fleeting and that the only constant is change itself. The cyclical nature of palace life extends to rituals and ceremonies that mark the year's progress. Festivals celebrate the emperor's lineage, ancestral spirits are honored, and seasons are acknowledged with elaborate observances. You participate dutifully, knowing that these events reinforce hierarchy and tradition, but also offer opportunities for subtle displays of favor and influence. Within these cycles, moments of renewal and reflection arise. Births and marriages bring hope and celebration. Funerals and retirements remind all of life's impermanence. You witness the delicate balance of joy and sorrow that defines existence within the palace. The cycles also highlight the tension between personal desires and imperial duty. Your hopes and dreams are tempered by the realities of court life, where individual aspirations must often yield to collective expectations. You navigate this tension with careful compromise, holding on to your identity while fulfilling your role. You come to see the palace not as a static prison, but as a dynamic organism alive with change, conflict, and possibility. Each cycle offers new challenges and opportunities, requiring continual adaptation. Historians have noted these cyclical patterns as central to understanding imperial court life, reflecting broader cultural and political philosophies. For you, they are lived. Experience a framework within which your story unfolds. As you move through these cycles, you develop a profound awareness of time's passage and its impact on your life. You cherish moments of stability and brace for inevitable upheavals, learning to find balance amid flux. And so the cycles continue turning, renewing, testing, shaping your journey through the palace's complex and ever-changing world. As you settle deeper into the rhythms of palace life, you come to recognize a profound truth power in this world is as much about perception as reality. The court is a stage where image and influence intertwine, where the art of appearances dictates your fate. You learn to craft your own narrative carefully, understanding that how you are seen often matters more than who you truly are. Your every gesture becomes deliberate, your expressions carefully curated to project strength, humility, or charm as the situation demands. You study the nuances of courtly behavior, the tilt of a head, the cadence of a voice, the subtle inflection in a greeting, and refine your own performance to align with expectations while preserving your sense of self. Clothing, adornment, and demeanor are powerful tools in this theater of power. You select your robes not only for their beauty, but for the messages they convey, colors that symbolize virtue patterns, that signal status, accessories that hint at alliances. Your presence becomes a living emblem, communicating your place and ambitions without uttering a word. You become adept at reading others' performances, discerning sincerity from calculation, strength from vulnerability. This skill allows you to navigate alliances and rivalries, choosing when to advance and when to retreat. You understand that the court rewards those who master this delicate dance of perception. The emperor's favor, while crucial, is only one piece of the puzzle. Equally important are the opinions of the empress' senior consorts and influential eunuchs whose judgments can amplify or diminish your standing. You learn to engage with each audience, strategically adapting your presentation to their expectations and desires. Your reputation becomes a currency traded and valued in whispers and glances. A well-timed compliment or a graceful gesture can enhance your image. A misstep or perceived slight can tarnish it. You guard your reputation, fiercely aware that it shapes your opportunities and protections. Yet beneath the artifice, you strive to maintain authenticity, a core of truth amid the layers of performance. You find ways to express your individuality subtly through the poetry you recite, the embroidery patterns you choose, or the quiet moments of reflection. These expressions sustain your spirit and affirm your identity. Historians often emphasize the performative nature of court life, highlighting how power was enacted through ritual and spectacle. Your experience brings this to life, revealing the nuanced interplay between appearance and agency. You reflect on the paradox of living behind a mask that both conceals and reveals. Your crafted image opens doors and builds alliances, yet it also demands constant vigilance and self-discipline. The line between performance and reality blurs, challenging your sense of self. As you navigate this world, you embrace the power of perception, not as deception, but as a means of survival and influence. You become both actress and director in your own story, shaping how you are seen and, in turn, shaping your destiny. And so the palace becomes your stage where every glance, every gesture, every word is part of a grand performance, a dance of shadows and light in which you seek not only survival but meaning. As the years pass within the palace's grand and suffocating walls, you find yourself transformed not just by the rituals and routines, but by the relentless passage of time itself. The girl who entered, filled with hope and fear, has become a woman, forged by endurance, tempered by experience, and defined by silent strength. Your story is woven into the palace's tapestry, a thread both fragile and resilient, visible only to those who know where to look. You carry memories of moments both exquisite and painful, brief flashes of favor, whispered alliances, the birth of a child, and the slow fading from grace. These recollections are treasures, affirmations that, despite the palace's attempts to erase individuality, you have lived, loved, and endured. The palace has been both prison and protector, a place of beauty and brutality, of constraint and subtle power. You have learned to navigate its complexities, mastering the art of survival through grace, silence, and cautious agency. Your identity has been challenged and reshaped, but it remains yours. In this final chapter, the pace slows. You feel the weight of years in your bones, but also the quiet peace that comes with acceptance. The frantic dance of favor and intrigue gives way to a gentler rhythm. You find solace in small joys, the soft touch of silk, the scent of jasmine on a summer evening, the warmth of a shared smile. You look back on your journey with a blend of sorrow and pride. The sacrifices made, the battles fought in silence, the resilience shown amid adversity. You recognize that your story is part of a larger narrative of women throughout history who navigated similar worlds of power and peril. Their voices often unheard, but their strength undeniable. As you prepare for the twilight of your time in the palace, you embrace the quiet moments. You meditate in the gardens, watch the seasons change, and write poetry that captures the depths of your experience. These acts are both legacy and refuge, expressions of self beyond the palace's control. You whisper prayers for those who came before and those who will follow, hoping that their lives might be gentler, their spirits freer. You find comfort in this continuity, a chain of resilience linking past, present, and future. And now, as your story nears its close, you invite the listener to carry these reflections into their own lives, a reminder of the enduring human capacity to survive, adapt, and find grace even in the most challenging circumstances. The palace doors may be closed, but the spirit you have nurtured remains open, ready to inspire, to teach, and to endure beyond the walls that once confined you. Now, as we come to the end of this journey through the brutal and beautiful life of a concubine in Imperial China, take a moment to breathe deeply. Imagine the soft glow of lanterns fading gently into the night, the scent of jasmine wafting through ancient corridors, and the quiet strength that carries through centuries of stories untold. Remember, survival is not just about endurance. It is about the quiet acts of courage, the subtle resistance, and the preservation of self amidst overwhelming odds. Though the palace demanded obedience and silence, it could never fully erase the human spirit that thrives in hope, memory, and resilience. Let these stories settle softly in your mind like petals on a still pond. Allow yourself to feel the weight of history, the lives lived in shadow and light, and the echoes of those whose voices may never have been heard aloud. As you close your eyes tonight, carry with you the knowledge that strength can be found in silence, that grace can flourish in constraint, and that even in the darkest places, light endures. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May your dreams be peaceful and your spirit unbreakable. End of script. Sweet dreams.